This is another episode of Summoning Insight, but this one is during Worlds, isn't it? So that's that time of the year where, let's just run down the list. Everyone tells us what a Dade Award is and who should win it, and then just picks people like Humanoid, you know, like players that never would have qualified ever in a million years for it. Or they just say mad stuff like, if Chovy loses in like the semis, like Chalky Dade Award, they'll do that. Then there's the whole thing they do every year where they also just tell us like everyone who wasn't a top pro that they like doesn't know anything about League of Legends. So like LS doesn't know anything about League of Legends. By the way, this will blow your mind, Monty. If you go and watch one of the videos recently, I'm trying to think what match. I think it might have been BLGT1. If you go and look at his VOD, his own comment section is just haters hella upvoted. Like, because you know, it's like, even if Caedrel, when you get to that size, mate, you just get infinity haters. Like, they just spawn out of nowhere, and then they hate watch your content. But as we know, and as this channel knows, bringing it all the way back, hate viewing is not a valued demographic, it's a worthless demographic. But it is a demographic. And you know what? At the end of the day, it gets the views up there where then it becomes popular. Then people who are cool go, I'll check this out. And then they see it, they enjoy it, and they start purchasing things from our sponsors. But we won't say the sponsors just yet. That'll come later in the episode. See, we're even sort of classy about how we do sponsorship. We're not just in your face, whoring it out. Yeah.
Try and make it a little bit entertaining for you guys at least. Also, while you're here, if you are a hater or a fan, you should subscribe to the channel. Right? That'd be a great move. And also, not only should you subscribe to this channel, but if you're interested in Counter-Strike, you should subscribe to that channel. And you should also subscribe to the LFN Culture channel, because our next 4-play arc with me and Richard and Thorin, where we go over movies, is going to be the scary deep cuts for the month of October and Halloween. And I have to say, guys, we actually picked some good ones. I had not seen any of these because, like, Richard is the horror connoisseur.
Even better. That's the best.
So
he's a badass, mate.
So I watched Cure, this Japanese movie from 1997, which I thought was insanely good today. So I really enjoyed that. Looking forward to having a conversation with Richard and Thorin about that one.
Session 9, my pick.
Session 9? Yeah, it was pretty good too. I enjoyed that one.
Do you want to know something funny? If you want to see how dumb people are, Monty, just Google like Reddit Session 9. Like 90% of stuff is like, this is just shit, nothing happens. It's like, it's actually the worst takes ever, mate. They're the worst takes ever. And also, even though we'll get to it on our show, I'll just say, you will never forget in your entire life, it's almost the only reason that guy should have been cast. When that guy goes, fuck you, like that, like that. David Caruso, you fucking gem. In some ways, you deserve to be the Nicolas Cage of your generation, except you're from Nicolas Cage's generation, so it's all good. It's just made for cheese, mate. His problem, Monty, is that it's not the 80s anymore. If this was the 80s, still he'd be riding high. He's exactly the sort of like classic, you know, fucking cliched actor you want. That's who you want doing that shit, you know. It's brilliant, isn't it? You want him as a stupid cop, as a stupid serial killer. He could do everything.
That's great.
He really is. He is another Nicolas Cage. I'm telling you, he can pull it off.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking for some new scary movies that you may not have seen before, and if you have seen some of these, I think you will be excited about seeing the rest of them if you haven't, because you'll know some of these are bangers. We did pick some foreign language ones. We also picked Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, which is a Korean like found footage horror movie. And what was the last one? Richard picked Kill List. So some fun ones there to round out your October. So head on over to Last Free Nation Culture and subscribe there as well. Subscribe here, subscribe there, subscribe everywhere. Thank you very much. We don't really do that many.
People miss an angle, though. Here's the angle that people miss about that show. Is they think it's a request show where they go, oh, are you going to do Train to Busan then? And then they go, I like that. And what they don't realize is they want you to do a review of a movie they've seen. It's like, to me, half the pleasure, because people are so bad at giving recommendations on the internet. They just say the most famous, hey, check out Goodfellas. Yeah, I did about fucking 30 years ago, mate. Can I have something new, maybe? Like, what you want is you want hidden gems. That's what you want for people who are film experts, right? So when we go into a genre, that's why I had Session 9 in that fucking chamber for years, mate. But I didn't blow it, did I? And then I waited till the right moment. And what do you know? It's a sleeper. You've never seen a film like that before. It's even totally unique, the way it's told, the way it's shot. So that's what I want from film things. I want someone to come with a movie. Ideal one, by the way, is because obviously everyone's seen the 9 out of 10 rating. I want it on IMDb to have like a 6.3 rating, but then to have like maybe an interesting director that did a few good things, couple of good actors. That's the fucking zone I'm in, because they're the films I haven't seen. I haven't spanned my consciousness walls. And no one, even better, no one's told you anything. So you can go in completely fresh. It's mega, in it. There's nothing better than not even seeing a trailer and just going in fresh as fuck. That's what I want from cinema. I don't. So everyone, every time it's an arc, they just say pick the most. Hey, The Exorcist. We could do that. Eventually, we could do it. Maybe we could do like a prestige horror one. But
Sure.
I like to do deep cuts personally. That's my style.
There you go. Scary deep cuts and more. Sword and Sandals and Eggers is another director arc to round out the year. So got a lot of stuff coming up for you on that one. Doa and I are also in the midst of our watching every fantasy film from the 1980s. So that's the thing that's happening.
Here's the thing. That's where I'm probably more on Doa's side. Because here's the thing. One, I have mad affection for those films because they were my children's youth films.
Yeah,
and when you're a child, imagination is everything. And then secondly, I have a theory, Monty, I'll quickly run by you, which is this is the reason why, objectively, TV shows and comic books and things like that were better in the 80s and the 70s because the kind of person who had to then got to earn a living, better write this script for a kid's movie, wasn't really someone who was a weirdo who wanted to influence kids. They wished they were writing a Hollywood movie, Monty, but no one would hire them to. So to write a movie that had trolls and elves, they had to write it for kids. But what they would do, and you know this, back in those 80s cartoons, they'd just slide a load of based shit in there. Like, fuck, what's going on? And like, that's why the villains are always super over the top and mega. Think about that villain in Legend, mate. That's like a fucking boss out of Doom or something. That's sick. So those movies, first of all, I have mad effects on. Like Legend, mad underrated one. If people don't know, that's literally what the game The Legend of Zelda is based off.
Excalibur, also good.
Yeah. Also, there were loads back then. Obviously, I will fight to the death anyone who tries to come at the never-ending story. Motherfucker. I was in that movie. You know, when that kid's reading the book and he's eating the food while they, while Atreus doing stuff in his imagination. I was watching him doing that while I was in the movie as well. I was in Fantasia, Monty. Now, look, I will say, only downside of that movie, at the end, you can't really tell what name he shouts about that his mother's name was. I never really knew what the deal that was, but it's all good. Point is, it's about imagination. And also, a last point on that one, for anyone who hasn't seen the Neverending Story, you're going to be so disappointed if you're an adult. You go, whoa, Thorin's hyping this movie a lot. I better sit down, like, close the curtains. Like, what the fuck? Like, as soon as you see that snail guy, you're going to lose your mind already. But it's a children's film, you idiot. All I'll say is this, Monty. If you actually go back and watch that film and just listen to the character, the Gamork, that black wolf, listen to what actual dialogue he is saying, Monty. It's the craziest fucking conspiracy deep cuts about who controls reality and what their purpose is with human beings. Go listen to that. That is a fucking...
I haven't seen that movie in a very long time.
Well, your kids are going to love it, mate. Exactly. That's you get to rewatch that shit. Just watch that with them. They're going to be loving it. Obviously, only the older one will be able to watch it. The younger one will be watching colours or whatever, It's all good.
But yeah, anyway, we've been working on that. We've also got, we're also going to be looking at, again, keep with their Legion looking at modern stuff. But anyway, let's talk about Worlds because you guys are here to discuss the first round. I don't know, actually, technically, 5 rounds of the Swiss stage, which is now concluded. And we are heading into kind of do or die territory. The only teams that have escaped thus far are, against all odds, LNG. And somehow
I bet them to win. It's all good. Some people got it, some people don't. So Scout believers in the chat. What up?
I'm glad we got to see a good LNG on form because they were pretty disappointing in the LPL playoffs. And then, of course, we get to see GenG, which was the more expected result.
You mean chalky?
Oh, yeah.
Who just chalks every single international tournament ever. Because it's weird, Monty, because it looked to me like he could just do whatever he wanted in the game and just win automatically. So it's weird, that, isn't it? And also, spoiler, here's the one good thing. It actually sucks because it makes it the least likely that they'll win. But as it's going right now, if they get a hard bracket, this one tournament alone could go to Chovy, you motherfuckers. You're making the most insane draw I've ever seen, ever. Like, remember, T1 would do stuff like play one game against, like, EDG, then play, like, fucking Lulex's H2K, Bangkok Titans. It's like, well, off to playoffs we go. It's like, mate, Chovy has to, like, run through a fucking, like, playoff bracket and reach that.
He had to play two LPL teams, and then the team they lost to in finals. Just absolutely ridiculous. That's pretty funny. Meanwhile, Dplus has to play Fnatic and FlyQuest.
Dplus is being given like so many fucking chances by the Fates, hasn't it? It's like the Fates have just chosen somehow that team are Kingen. You know what? I can't even believe we're actually in a world where they split apart and Kingen and Zeke are probably both going to be in the playoffs of the Worlds. Like, what even is this timeline, bro? What is it?
I don't know. I think it's actually funnier if Dplus goes to the first 2-0 match and then just bombs out. I mean, I don't want to see them in the bracket. I think they are.
I think it's
tragic.
funnier. let's get into that, because I think it's funnier if they go to the 2-2 game. I'm with you, Monty. And then what they do is they just clap every motherfucking Western team. Put them all up. Put Team Liquid up. Hey, the macro, you need hands, motherfucker. You almost lost to Pain Gaming. They'll clap them. 2-zip probably. G2 might be a 2-1, you know, hard games here and there. They could probably beat them. Fnatic,
they can't play Fnatic again.
All right, okay, they true.
I mean, by the way, Thorin,
this year they changed that. Last year you could, because Dplus played KT twice. This year they did change it like a proper Swiss. So you can't meet twice, true.
I will issue a complaint about this. Like, I think overall the no rematches rule is fine. But Thorin, I want to get your take. I think in the 2-2 matches, rematches should be allowed. In the two,
I know what
when
you mean,
get to
because
2-2,
the problem is you don't want a world where which one? I can only draw GAM or I can draw D+. It's like, oh, I already played D+ in a BO1, so I can just get GAM. Nice.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you mean. For the last match only, obviously you shouldn't be able to draw anyone in like a fucking 1-2 game, 2-1 game. I agree with you on that one. But no, you're right. On the best of 3 series, maybe make it just no rematches in the same format. How about that? So in BO1s you can't rematch, and BO3 can't. Maybe make it like that. That would work, I think.
Yeah, I think that would just be a better format, because it basically means like, okay, there is a scenario here just based on the matchups that we have to kind of fast forward, because we're going to be looking at, you know, the next round of playoffs. But because of the matchups we have, probably if you are a fan of the West for whatever deranged reason, the best you can probably hope for, if you are like excited about these playoffs based on who we think will win in the next round and will lose, you probably hope for like TL versus FlyQuest, so one of them gets to quarters, and then, you know, probably
G2
Fnatic.
Fly, if you want the same thing, you can do the same thing too.
Yeah, G2 Fly, something like that. You know, Western teams facing each other, but also maybe like G2 Dplus, if you think G2 can win that, and then Fly versus Team Liquid. Those would be probably favored, you know, potentially to G2, and you might be able to get both G2 and either FlyQuest or Team Liquid in the quarterfinals.
D+ accountability thread, because here's the problem: you're hating on them, Monty, and the reason I say you're hating on them is because look, they haven't even looked good in these games. But I'll just put this out there. You know, when everyone does that thing, like, no, give APA time, like he's still young. Right? How many fucking national tournaments has he played now? Lucid was like fucking 4 years old when League of Legends began, bro, and he is just playing himself just fine at his first Worlds. Like he didn't need like years to level up. He just it's like fucking Grab said on Twitter, mate. He doesn't like the idea people go put the pressure on you at Worlds, because he says, do you know how many times I got clapped by 17 and 18-year-old Koreans in like the top 4 of the tournament? And he's right. If you're the best Asians, you just win the tournament, mate. It's not some storybook of like you're leveling up each year or whatever. Like, by the way, it's the same in the NFL. You could come in and right out the gate like Lamar Jackson and Mahomes, just be good. You just be the best immediately. What are you waiting for? It's just cope in it.
I love this argument too, because people, I was yelling at people in my Twitch chat this week for me. I was talking about some of the players' skill, right? And people are like, well, you know, they're new, they're just a rookie. And I'm like, they just need time to grow. And I'm like, there's no linear progression between skill and age, guys. Like, that's not a thing. Just because you get older doesn't mean you have more skill. I mean, by that logic, we should just be putting all of the veteran players in all the time, right? What would be the point of having up and coming talent?
How did MDK qualify by that logic? They never would have, Monty. They're all rookies except Yone, right? So they didn't qualify.
Like, the thing is, though, that especially in MDK's case, they're all already old. You know what I mean? Like, sure, some of them are rookies. Frescowy is 24. This guy isn't good enough. He's not going to be good enough, guys. Like, Frescowy is just, he's never going to be that guy. You can tell he's not that guy right now. Players, in my experience, in 20 years of watching esports, the amount of times somebody became that guy from being bad is, you can count them on like one hand. One of them was Smeb, okay? Smeb went from being the worst top laner in LCK to the best top laner in the world. That rarely happens. That is so unlikely to occur. Usually you start with some level of promise or can develop it relatively quickly. You know, people talk about Faker's debut. Faker was extraordinary in his first game, his first professional game. So I don't really understand why
This is even funnier, because remember, he was a guy who just played normals. He wasn't even a fucking solo queue guy. It was ridiculous. That's just pure talent.
Yeah.
Flame was really young when he came in the league. Like, loads of them were, mate. Shy was really young. Loads. They become the best instantly. It's just corp. And by the way, I actually think, as a little bit of a side tangent, I think it's like life. Like, if you haven't, spoiler, I've never pretended otherwise. I'm literally autistic. I was a very immature person for a long time in my life. Obviously, the joke is, some would say still out, but yeah, we all get it. I'll do the intrusive voices myself, even though I don't have them. That's one of my secrets too. But the point is, I learned in life, age doesn't actually mature you. Experience and how you respond to experience matures you. That's why there can even be really bad things. In fact, I would argue, Monty, without getting too Nietzschean, I would actually argue sometimes really negative but life-altering experiences are what level you up in terms of maturity. Like, you realize things like your mortality, or the importance of like being a upright person in the world, or all sorts. I actually think similar in the game. The real problem these players have is this. Here's where you can get the corp for a Westerner. You know the reason why APA is, for me, still a rookie spiritually? Because he still hasn't played that many games against the top Asian teams. Like, look, compared to old worlds, he has, because we have better formats, but he hasn't been able to play. The difference is Lucid just played 2 splits in fucking LCK, boys. Like, that means he's played what, like 36 fucking best of 3s without even playoff games. Like, that's insane, the experience this guy. Then you have all the scrims. That's what levels you up, is the experience. And spoiler, Monty was right about this 10 years ago. If you wanted to fix that, you would have made a space in the calendar where Western top teams would go to Korea, and they'd have like mixed, it doesn't have to be LCK, it could just be mixed tournaments over there. That would be fucking incredible. And would, by the way, the Koreans, it would help them because you'd bring viewership and foreign sponsors. They wouldn't help them in competitively, except they'd like to beat the fuck out of all the Western teams. Don't worry about that. But it would help all the Western teams so much. Imagine how good people like fucking Caps and Perks and some of these players would be if they'd been constantly going to Korea like that, mate. It'd be dope. Upset. Yeah. All of them.
We could have had it better, but Riot needed to create domestic leagues, and then they wonder why people don't really want to watch NA anymore after 10 years of getting beaten up, because they're trapped in a region with no player base in order to get better, when they could have just let them continue to go over a boot camp in Korea, because oftentimes we've seen teams get better when they actually do that. See Team Liquid this year at MSI. But I know, speaking of Team Liquid, I know you had a subject you wanted to bring up, which is this video of Spawn coaching that apparently is, I guess, offensive to some people.
Here's the craziest part about this one, Monty. I thought, right, well, you know what? There's been some controversy where at least I got it. Like, if you're not someone who knows what Polish people are like, or Europeans in general, you might be shocked by those like videos of Inspired and Whippo and Jensen flaming each other and be like, what the fuck? What is this? Do they hate each other? But Monty, when I rolled this up, I was like, wow, he must have done like a Bobby Knight. He must have just gone in on this motherfucker, told him like, you know, I'll ship your ass out here if you don't do it. Get your fucking shit together. What do you do? And mate, it's just a guy in a very like relaxed tone going like, look, in the next game call, we need to like, you know, our macro's got to be better and we've got to like understand what to do.
Got to push buttons better, right? Is what he says.
It's mental.
He's got to push buttons better.
He's not even vaguely. Here's the real thing I will say. First of all, meta-analysis. The reason people are mad is one of the things I hate about esports, which is fanatics. You are doing K-pop stan culture, and you are going, CoreJJ is baby, and I must protect. And then you see him, and you go, oh, Core looks sad. Yeah, he should be sad after winning that atrocity of a game versus Pain Gaming, where if Pain Gaming actually knew basic macro, they would have just won that series 2-0. So I absolutely would feel very bad about winning that game. That is not a fucking like, that's only a win on paper. That was like if I'm their next opponent, I'm like, whoo, mate, we can get these guys. They're beatable. So I totally agree with the premise, by the way. You should feel sad about that. Then you got to add in the way Spawn's coach. I actually think it's fantastic coaching. Yep. Notice, first of all, Monty, he actually does that thing, which, by the way, is actually the secret of why I hoped Mithy would be a great coach, but he wasn't, unfortunately. Supposedly, in VOD reviews, Monty, Mithy wouldn't go, amazing, you're fucking shit at jungling. What are you doing invading the blue buff, you idiot? He would go, jungle needs to synergize better with the support when we take over the buffs. And by making it like sort of like externalized like that, like the jungler, the role jungle, basically, it wasn't like a personal attack. He was doing that in this video. He was doing a really good job of feedback. Also, by the way, if you don't know, he's fucking Australian and he's mad fucking under wraps on that video. They go way wilder than that. He's actually he must be one of those fucking mild-mannered Australians of all time, mate. Are you kidding me? He didn't even drop my favorite
four letter. He's learned from being in NA for too long, Thorin.
He didn't even drop my favorite four-letter word. You all know what it is, but whatever. We'll have this video be monetized for now, unless I get mad later on. So I thought he did a really good job, but obviously the whole thing is sort of like, oh my God, the tone though, and it's so inappropriate. He's doing it on stage. Like, I'll just say this. I'll let Monty speak, but then I've got a little rant. Basically, this is why NA doesn't win. Your reaction as fans. You are dickheads like Jojo who don't want people to shout at them and tell them what to do. Oh, I have to be on time. What the fuck? I'm only playing video games. Excuse me, Jack. Can I have $700,000? Anyway, what do you think about this?
No, I think it's ridiculous because look, people are going to say, you know, why are we doing this when they just won this game versus Pain Gaming? But it wasn't as clean of a win as it could have been. If you actually look at the way Team Liquid has performing, and Spawn is right to criticize them even after this win. And do you think CoreJJ cares about this? This is again one of those times where if you are not a competitive person, then you should not be judging the way that competitive people talk to one another.
Yes.
Because I guarantee you, Core doesn't give a shit about the tone or, you know, if it feels harsh. He actually probably welcomes that kind of criticism because guess what? Spawn is trying to help him win. They are on the same side. And surely CoreJJ, a world champion player who has been on rosters in NA, then Korea, then NA again, who has such a veterancy to his career. Surely he understands, like, this is part of the competitive process and I need to be pushed a little bit here. And so does the rest of Team Liquid. Because if you look at their other two games that they played before this, they played some really good macro games that they could have won if they had actually team fought properly and hit their abilities. Like, it's embarrassing if you're Team Liquid. It is incredibly frustrating to be in a position where you know you could have had a couple of upsets under your belt already, and you weren't able to get that. Like, I can imagine as a competitor, they are much more angry about that than anything that Spawn is saying to them right now. And Spawn is delivering this information, as Thorin says, in a very low-key manner, in my opinion. He's not ranting. He's not screaming. He's basically just saying, you've disappointed me, do better. And by the way, he's also doing it to the team captain, right? Who is the one who should be able to take that criticism and then be the leader for his teammates in game. And he, you know, that's when, if you are a coach, you talk to the leader on your team because you light a fire under him, then he helps you light a fire under the other guys, right? He knows Core is the leader of that team.
Also, even though I don't think that he was doing it on purpose, like, put it so, I know some big European coaches who absolutely have to say certain things on shows because I might work with that team one day or that player, so I can't like flame them too hard in case they don't want to work with me. But I'll just put it this way: I don't think he did it intentionally, but I'll tell you what, that's a brilliant advert for Spawn's coaching because he was doing it on camera where you could hear what he was saying. Like, that would make me already, if I was like Jack, be like, maybe in the future there's someone I would hire as well. That's a brilliant advert right there. Also, there's a piece of trivia I found out the other day about CoreJJ that blew my brain, mate. This,
what is it?
Your brain you'll think this doesn't make sense. It can't be right. Right? You know how Koreans love to just go by the actual year you were born in. They don't say the age. Yes. They say I was from this year. Right? Are you ready? CoreJJ is a year older than Impact. Doesn't seem like it can be right, does it?
That's crazy.
Doesn't seem like it can be right, does it? It's true. He's from 1994 and Impact is from 1995. That is mad, isn't it? So somehow in your brain that doesn't make sense. Look it up. It's true, though. It is true. It's mad, isn't it?
Impact won Worlds when he was 18 then. That's interesting.
Which is also why I'm sure he had all that longevity. Like, we don't realize he just left Korea like a couple of years after that. Like, he was super young. He basically left Korea like Inspired left Europe. Like, he was super young, but we all acted because he was a world champion. Like, he was already the grandpa. That's why if you go back, one take that has aged poorly, Monty, is people were acting like, well, he has no hands. He's old, isn't he? When he was like 22 or something mental, mate. Like, they already were at that level. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, isn't it?
CoreJJ was playing at the same, around the same time that Impact was. He just wasn't on T1. He was on Big File Miracle and like lower level, lower level teams that were competing at OGN. So, yeah, he was there. He just wasn't. He wasn't having the success.
We didn't care about him. We were like, who gives a fuck about Big File? Exactly. We were laughing at him, basically. He was probably inadvertently the victim of a joke or two from Doha at some point in time,
I mean, he was also an AD carry at the time. He was also an AD carry. He started on Big File in 2014, so right after Impact's Worlds win, actually. And then he went to Dignitas later in 2014.
By the way, tell you what, Dignitas is a shit org in League, but I'll tell you what, they did have a lot of weird imports that were actually good. Dude, they even had that rich guy from fucking HOTS who was like a decent player in the LPL. And they had a lot of decent imports, actually. They just did a bad job managing the team, basically. By the way, let's go to the other angle, though. as you said, Monty, the obvious jump-off point about this topic is, I've said this in the past, here's a take people really don't like, Monty. Everyone in the West does this thing where they mock me and you for being elitists, but then they're elitist as fuck when they contrast themselves and their expectations of Western teams against the actual Western teams who are trying really hard. Now, one, I'll just throw this out there. You know when people go, ha, Monty is biased, he is just watching Koreans and overrating them. Then he goes to Worlds and gets an 80% prediction rate. Well, it sounds like he's actually the only person that has, actual access to objective reality. But you were living in a dream world where Western teams were always as good and could always, yeah, of course, why not? Look at them team fighting against Curse, with I Will Dominate, who I don't even respect, and that will say his shit and never was good in the game years later. Then also, there's the whole angle, and this is the one I want to get into, which is, when Western fans go, I've even done it to Western casters, I've actually clapped to them. When they go like, I'm so disappointed in the way, Team Liquid plays it out, and the way that FlyQuest tries to, they're the best of us, you dickhead. You're not. You're just some guy. What are you talking about? Like, by the way, you don't even have to be the best caster to be on a Western broadcast. Like, fuck, you aren't the fucking king of the casting. So, by the way, I'm disappointed in you, bitch. Should we pull up the ones who were the Koreans and translate? Because if people don't know, this famously happened, you might remember in StarCraft 2, someone once did a translation of that guy called like Engine or something, like what he was actually saying on casts, Monty. And it was unbelievable. He was doing like a VOD review live, bro, like in real time. He was giving like incredible like build analysis. And what you learned was, in the West, the people we all liked were just going like, oh my God, the Stalkers are going in and he's decimated his whole army. His whole bloody army. Notice I did like a 4 British accent that isn't even my British accent, just to make fun of all the British StarCraft 2 casters there. That's right. You all get clapped. You're all watching shitter Western Cops and DreamHacks. So already, right, I hate this talk of like, but I'm disappointed. Who are you to be disappointed? One, you don't pay 1 red cent. 2, you're not the best of us. They are the outlier best of us, by the way. And 3, if people who try their hardest, like Caps, can't be as good as like Chovy, I'm going to go ahead and say it's other factors. There might be a bit of like nature and nurture on both sides there, culturally, angles, they play in their own region. There's all these factors. So that I hate. So then let me go to this angle. North Americans, sit up. This is the part of the show that's for you. The mentality of you getting upset at that VOD review is why the West, relative to the top Asian teams, will always be fucking losers. Losers. People who want to lose and then go, it's not that bad because there's nothing after that. There's nothing that fills in that blank that makes it okay. That's not how it works, mate. I'll tell you a weird angle, and this will sound weird because it'll sound like a loser mentality from a European, but it's actually a winner's mentality. Do you want to know what's funny? I think it was Wonder told me this. I once asked him, I think even in my reflections, like, do you ever wonder what if like that G2 2021 team where Reckless had made Worlds? Like, maybe you could have mixed it up. And he basically just said like, nah, it's actually better we didn't make Worlds. So I can tell you, we weren't going to do anything at that tournament. So what's even the point in going? That's in a weird way a winner's mentality, because his whole shit's like, I'm only going to get the top. I'm going to clap everyone. Yeah. I'm going if I actually believe I could clap everyone except maybe the shy. That's the Western ones want that thing. That's why I led with that thing at the start of the show. They want that thing of like, guys, even if you don't win, just like show a great game and make it exciting and let's compete. Fuck competing. Jose Mourinho, the legendary football coach, had a great quote where he said, finals aren't for playing, they're for winning. Because losers go, yeah, but I was in some finals. A winner goes, I lost a few finals, but I did win these ones though. That's what a winner thinks. So you guys in the West are fucking losers. You don't realize, I've said this before, you want the results of the LPL and the LCK without using their methods. You know what? I believe it too. I think it might be possible to work smarter, not hard. You don't know how to, though. We haven't got the smart people who can do that. So I don't know how you expect to get those results. Essentially, what you're saying is you want a Western worker with like coffee breaks and no like fucking overloaded with work and no mandatory overtime. He has to outwork a sweatshop factory guy. Good luck. That guy's literally got like the metaphorical financial gun against his head, hasn't he? He goes to sleep in the factory so he can be up fucking 8 a.m. There are nets to keep him safe. See what I did there very carefully. Whatever. There are safety nets, Monty. I did it wrong, Monty. The only safety nets they have. There you go. Boom, boom. Insert the joke. That's not a bad one. I workshopped it live for you there. So what do you think? Because I can't handle this. If NA can't get over this, you are going to end up with a generation of JoJos. You're going to end up with players, by the way, who sometimes are generational talents, but they're never going to access it because they can't motherfucking turn up on time. They can't even come to fucking practice on time.
Or the community, as you said earlier, just jumps out and needs to protect these players. And Team Liquid put this out, and I think it's very mild. I'm sure Spawn has had more shouty moments about some of these other games. Like, I know him. I think he can be, firm when he needs to. I don't think he's like, he's a very nice guy. So I don't think he's like capable of, being a real asshole in those situations. But anybody who's been on a pro, like seen a pro sports team or been on a sports team has obviously had worse from their coaches in the past about coaches getting mad. And that just motivates you. So I don't really understand. I think this is part of just gamer culture because a lot of these people just haven't been on any sports teams in their entire lives. I've been yelled at worse by coaches when I've played sports. So I don't really understand this.
By the way, are we just going to ignore this? Most of the style of coaching they're talking about, Monty, is when you're a teenager. Like, when you're a teenager and you're full of fucking testosterone and you're just playing the game and you got your ego going, you need to be fucking put in your place. You need to remember there's a hierarchy and you aren't the king of the fucking game. It doesn't matter if you're the MVP of the league, if you won the championship last year. By the way, my favorite example ever of coaching is, bro, did you used to see how Bill Belichick used to fucking treat Tom Brady? He fucking wrecked him if they have done a mistake. There's a famous quote, he just said, run the fucking ball, Brady. This is after he'd won like about 5 championships or something like that. Because he didn't give a fuck. It was about, wow, we're going to win this game now. Never mind what we did yesterday. Let's get our shit together today. And I'll tell you what, Tom Brady fucking loved that shit. He was eating it up, which is why, by the way, he accomplished the things he did. If he'd have broken, then Belichick would have known, time to get it. I'm done with playing with you, Andy. Time to get a new fucking toy out the bag, isn't it? Which in his case, he was trying to make it Jimmy Garoppolo. So, you know what? That was 50-50. He has to feel like, I'll just play a quick sidebar. I actually have a very cynical theory, Monty. The reason I think Bill Belichick wanted to recruit Jimmy Garoppolo is because he's the ultimate system quarterback. So then if he'd have won with those defenses, he could have gone, I guess that Brady guy wasn't. He didn't even think Jimmy Garoppolo was better. He just wanted.
I subscribe to this conspiracy.
I think he wanted to, because Bill Belichick would literally just win championships doing checkdowns. He doesn't give a fuck about throwing like an 8-yard bomb. You know what I mean? He doesn't get. That's why he famously says, it's very telling what he always goes, Randy Moss taught me so much about wide receiver position. No, Bill, he didn't. He just taught you that if you have Randy Moss, it's okay to throw an 8-yard bomb and just say he'll just levitate up above everyone and take it. Like, that's not wide receiver play. That's just having Randy Moss on your team. You know what I mean? And spoiler, 2 seasons later, they didn't have Randy Moss anymore, did they? So,
I mean, Belichick was also winning games after the Brady era where he was calling like two in the snow, where he was calling like 2 pass plays a game, literally. It's just right.
The Mac Jones ones.
He won that game. The Mac Jones one.
That was another check down quarterback. He was never there to throw Justin Herbert balls, mate. It was about go routes. It was just all about throw it to. Basically, logically, there's always going to be one person 10 meters open. Just throw it to that guy. That's how you win the game. And by the way, at the end, are you ready? This is going to really hurt a lot of people's feelings. Do you want to know how you actually win American football games? Defense, and you just kick field goals. Field goals are so OP in that sport.
And you don't turn the ball over. That's actually...
Yeah, which is why you don't throw that 60-yard bombs all the time. You just throw that check down, don't you? They go straight in the open, man. He can't even int it. It just drops it if so. It's all good. It's all good. Anyway, back on Team Liquid. Because here's the thing, Monty. They could use our next sponsor, and you can too if you want to be like Team Liquid. Because it is, of course... Raycon earbuds in this particular case. I've got mine here. Now, what you could do is be like Team Liquid, because think about it, right? You're competing, you're playing, you're giving your best, you want to succeed in the game. So what have you got to do that? You've got to block out the noise. What about their noise cancelling? Active noise cancellation. You can just tap. It's off, tap, it's back on again. Actually, that's with the sound coming in and out. You've got that active noise. You can just shut. Yeah, that's the awareness mode. You're right. You've got to be aware of what you're doing, as Spawn was trying to make CoreJJ in that game, because sometimes Team Liquid obviously comes in with a good game plan. They have good protocols late in the game, but they sometimes get lost in that mid-game, don't they? Then you've also got to block out the noise. You don't want to hear what the naysayers are saying, or some dickhead on Reddit who go, I feel like Core's a bit sad after. No, it ain't about that. I'm not saying, by the way, just for legal reasons, I'm not saying that Raycon blocks out sadness from your life. That's not true. But tell you what, if it means they pump in some really cool music, like, you know what, you could listen to some Gregorian chant. That'll get your fucking spirits raised. Yeah, there you go. If you don't know, Monty, if I was doing World sidebar, I'd be there like You're all thinking it's like, lose yourself in the moment. You gotta let it go. I was like, that's where I would be. I would be enlightened, Morph. I'd be a mystic. I'd be a mystic warrior poet. Anyway, enough about that. It's not Dungeons and Dragons right now. Back into the commercial. So the other thing is, they also have multi-point connectivity. Obviously, easy to charge. You just put them in that case. By the way, the charging is one of the best features. From 10 minutes of charge, you get 90 minutes worth of battery. There you go. Just like a great coach giving you a 10-minute charge gives you enough time to play Mad Lions' entire tournament, 90 minutes or so, or whatever. Then also, they have a 32-hour battery life. That's about how long Mad Lions was in Worlds, and how long the hype lasted. And then also, they are weatherproof and or sweat resistant. So that's pretty good. You want to be out and about, you want to go for a run with them, you want to go for a hike into the hills with them, take them out with you. Sweat resistant, you're going to go to the gym. You know, you're pushing the metal. You're trying to literally do this. Like, you're trying to actually look with your eyes, move your eyeballs, but turn off your vision as asses appear and just go, God knows in the modern day what's going to happen if I get caught by that. I see nothing. I see nothing. I see no. Oh, they turn on again. Yeah, that's the wait. So wait. You sweat a bit. By the way, people sweat when they play. They get nervous, don't they? When you're in the promos, all you fucking Zoomers, all those people who again are losers, who are just like, oh, I've got ladder anxiety because it's my promos. Maybe you're just not actually that good. Maybe when you lose the game and it says defeat, you need to just learn some things about the game. Maybe you shouldn't try and just hope you fluke a win. Because that's the thing. With Raycon, we're not trying to fluke a win. This is a bona fide product that is one of the top on the market, especially for this price point. Speaking of the price point, Monty, I like to use them for the active noise cancellation. Like I say, go and do some cooking, do something in the other room, put fucking clothes in the cupboard. As if I do clothes in the cupboard. That one, I made that one up. I do the cooking one. I made up the one about me putting my own clothes in the cupboard. I don't do that for obvious reasons. That's not my type of work. I'm a thinker. I do the mental labor. That's the way it works in my house, Monty. But you can stop the fuss and go to buyraycon.com/LFN, because that's our code. Remember, LFN, Last Free Nation. Today, to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. So obviously go check what different products you're trying to buy. That's right, you'll get up to 50% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/LFN. That's buyraycon.com/LFN for up to 50% off. A bit like feeling of the odds when Dplus plays a game in a BO1. Could be a 50-50, could be a 70-40, could be a 10. You never know. You'll find out in the moment. There you go. Thank you to Raycon, and especially thanks to anyone who buys it and maybe is even listening right now with their Raycons. Shout out to
right.
you.
Great earbuds. All right. So I do want to talk about some of Team Liquid's other games, though, because people be wondering about that. Like the Pain Gaming ones, like they ended up winning. Did they have to, make it potentially as sloppy as they did?
That's a war crime of a series. I've got a question for you, Monty.
All right.
Here's the bigger issue, and this is also one of the reasons I do think the LCS has looked like shit at this tournament. Bro, Impact was the MVP of the league. This is one of the worst performances I've ever seen.
He is maybe leading the Dade Award category right now, guys. There's two players, right? There's two players that are leading the Dade Award categories. Impact is one of them, and the second one is probably On. From BLG.
Yep.
And he might win that even if BLG gets to quarters somehow, because if they lose in quarters and he has another shit game, then I think On will actually earn that Dade Award.
I think Dom and Caedrel had On the best support in the world. Now, what's funny is on my tier list, I was actually quite harsh. I think I put him on like B tier or A tier because I said, for me, he's like a Hillersang of fucking the LPL, mate. He has amazing angles and fucking sick play. But I'll tell you what, he giveth and he taketh too, mate. He has some fucking mad ints as well and some really bad angles sometimes. So, no, that On one's a good shout. Let's keep our eye on that one. Because right now, BLG's 1-2. They could still fuck it all up, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Still fuck it all up.
I don't think they'll lose to PSG, but I think all bets are kind of off at this point in time. Yeah, they've definitely had some rough ones. They beat MDK, and MDK was one of the worst teams at this tournament, and otherwise they've lost the remainder of their games against harder opponents. It has to be said, but even so, we'll get to T1. I do want to talk about Liquid a little bit though, because Impact has not been showing up, especially in the form that his team really relies on him. And I think that when you have that MVP split and you've been playing that way throughout the entirety of the year, really, and especially of this summer, your team relies on you to have these level of performances in order to play the game that they've practiced to play. And so for him to be falling behind in a lot of these situations, to be really like out of the game, I mean, he was not, I mean, Kiaya is definitely like, sorry, I was thinking about Weiser. Like Weiser definitely had some decent performances on Pain Gaming, but there's no way that impact on this Jax, which they picked on B1.
Remember, dude, they're picking him as carries too. They're not doing some old impact shit like cynical. They're giving him the carries for the game.
Right. And, you know, Impact has been in situations where he should be, because of the way Team Liquid plays, ahead in some of these lane swap situations, and he's finding himself behind, and he's playing the carries, and it just isn't working for the team. Now, this doesn't excuse the rest of the people on Team Liquid, because if we look at some of the games that they've had, like, you could certainly criticize Umti, especially for some of the plays he was making, like the play he made around second grubs in the Pain game, in the second game against Pain was just kind of a needless death and overextension. But Team Liquid has really been struggling when it comes to some of these early games. Like when they played against Weibo, Tarzan, he literally just kills Yone and APA when they both have their flash up, because neither of them wants to flash Skarner E while it's just charging them down in the laning phase. It's like, just that's fucking not even
flash. A hands move. It's Skarner, for fuck's sake. You just get out of his range. He's
just running at them.
Get out! You're about to ruin roads for Frog and you dickhead. Sorry, I went to Vietnam there, Monty. It was season 2 worlds all over again. My bad. No. I'm back. It's safe. I'm in a safe place now, and I'm back in America. I'm Rambo. John Rambo. Go on.
You know, it's not even like Weibo is a particularly good team at this event. Like Zhao, who has been underwhelming outside of his performance on Lucian all summer, and he comes in and he just kind of, with the help of his team, bops Team Liquid. Like it's really disappointing, you know, some of the ways that Team Liquid is finding to lose these games. So yeah, it's just like they don't seem to be able to team fight properly. Like APA is making a ton of mechanical mistakes in their first 2 games. In that Syndra game, he's flashing forward on Syndra to not complete a kill on Dejahu and just die. In the first game, of course, they're in a really winnable situation against LNG, where they've managed to back row their way to some nice leads. They even have the right idea around these team fights, and APA, you know, flash rocket belts, and he can't get over a wall, so he can't ult, and then the team loses the team fight.
So here's the problem. Everyone wanted to congratulate Team Liquid after MSI and EWC, because it's true. When their players had glow-ups, suddenly the macro looked really good, like it could win games. First of all, they didn't win any of the games against the Asians then. Bro, when APA and Yone play at a normal level, they're not gonna win against people like Scout Pro. You aren't gonna do it. You're not even gonna win against fucking Zhao, mate. You know what I mean? It's like these players, like their bad game is your fucking average game. That's your problem. So the hand diff has been an issue for me, because the problem is the APA that was in like spring. Yeah, I'd like to see that guy. Has anyone seen him in a while? It's been a fucking ages now, mate. It's been ages.
I mean, it's not his champion pool, obviously. Like him playing the Nico still, I mean, Faker to a certain degree. I don't think it's like a fringe meta pick right now. Obviously, he hasn't busted out the Talia yet. You know, Faker probably.
Where are all the power picks though? Where are the power picks, mate? You know what I mean?
I mean, exactly. But I mean, the meta has shifted out of his favor. Like the Aurelion Soul isn't really an option for him. The Talia is a fringe meta pick. I mean, I think Faker probably should have played Talia in the game that T1 played against BLG, because that Silas pick, I think, was just very weird in that comp.
I've got a meta thing we need to discuss, so we'll do it now. Here's the part that, you know, everyone said this champion was going to be buffed, but bro, right now, Yone runs fucking worlds. Yeah. For real. Your mid lane Yone runs worlds right now. It's fucking OP as shit. With the best players, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's OP. It's OP even with some of the worst players. I mean, we were treated to some games that happened yesterday that had some really like quite bad Yone players, and even then we're seeing like potential Yone wins in like the GAM versus Mad Lions series. I mean, Emo basically played an atrocious game of Yone where he barely hit any ults, and he still managed to win the game because when you hit them at the right time, it's so impactful. The thing about Yone is he's very obviously overtuned right now. He spikes incredibly hard on one item to the degree that you could just build Stride Breaker and build tanky items as your second item and then provide CC. He can zone people off of objectives while your team is doing the objectives, and he can snap back at any time. Therefore, he can absorb CC and then just, if you time it right during your snapback, he is just incredibly, incredibly strong.
Here's the stats. He is literally 93.3% pick ban percentage and 12 wins, 3 losses. It's just, it's the auto win right now.
Yeah. It's huge.
But the question is, if you're someone like APA, what are you going to do with a Yone meta, mate? What have you got for me? Have you got a counter? Because here's the problem I have, Monty. I'm not going to accept, but I don't play Yone. No. You have to have counters then, bro. What are your counters? Tell me the champion you have that can counter.
The answer has been Smolder, right? In certain cases. The answer has been Smolder. And that has been an option for certain teams, and you can outrange him and you can stack for free against him and you can hope you can scale into the late game. But the Yone still is going to be able to side lane effectively into the mid and late game, is going to provide pressure. He still has useless, and he's also probably one of the better champions at killing Smolder late because he could dive the back line. So you still have to be scared of him. I don't think that many players are going to be able to position, and many teams are going to be able to peel for that Smolder, particularly effectively. But there's also the fact that, if we want to broaden this conversation to the meta, right? And if you're an NA fan, the question you guys should be asking as NA fans is, why can't the NA teams play Yone?
Yep.
Right? If you look at FlyQuest 2, it's not even banned in their first game versus GAM, right? It's not picked or banned. And in the second one, it gets picked by Kingen in the top side, and it was Kingen's very first game on this champion. And I think, part of the reason why they picked this is because Showmaker had an opportunity to play Sylas, which is one of his signature champions. Showmaker, out of all the Korean mids, has played Yone the least. But even then, they are picking it and trying to first time it. And FlyQuest isn't doing that. And Team Liquid obviously seems allergic to this champion as well. So it feels like it's pretty difficult for these teams to win when they are not able to potentially play some of these picks.
Because here's the thing. This is where you have to know there's levels, guys. I might bag on Faker, but his Yone game against Payne was totally fine. He was fucking playing it. He had no problem picking them, playing that champion. Where are you, APA? Where are you at? You're supposed to be one of the best Western players, mate. What's your champion pool? It's nothing. Let me see it. Show me something.
Well, you would also think that Quad would be able to play it, but we just haven't seen it come up here. It was banned against them when they had Blue Side by PSG
played it
Talon.
Twice this year, apparently, but not a massive champion for him.
Right. So, I think that this might be an ongoing issue because it just feels like some of the priorities are not there, especially for the LCS teams, and they want to do other things instead. And, I would have thought maybe Whippo would play this champion or something like that, but apparently that's not happening either. So it does feel rather perilous in terms of the meta because a lot of this tournament, I think, is going to be defined as to whether you actually want to play this Yone or not. And I think that's another thing that Dplus is going to struggle with because they've been banning it on Blue Side, for example, when they played against LNG. But as far as the hope for Western rosters goes, this is a must pick. It's a must pick at this event. So G2 at
think about it, right?
Good play.
People love to cry about champions being OP, but they rarely are, Monty. What they normally mean is the player's OP who got it, or the comp that he makes is OP. That thing has just been played in a million comps. It just wins right now. You could tell when they made that champion.
You can lose lane and still be useful because all you have to do is get played.
Yeah. That's the problem. You could tell when that champion was invented, holy fuck. The reason Yasuo was balanced was it's so difficult to get the angles and to get through the lane sometimes. The thing about Yone is you could just tell this will only ever be shit or crazy with this kit. I actually even like it. But the problem is I do think it's a bit overtuned right now. It's a little
absolutely.
Just a tad.
But
if you people like cream, you're fucking loving it, mate.
Also, it just slots really nicely into the meta because there is an opportunity to take Rumble in the top side to provide your AP damage, or Ziggs in the AD carry position to provide your AP damage, or you can take AP junglers. Or here's the thing, Thorin, if you want to take Smolder and run him at AD carry or run him in the top lane, teams just don't even have to play AP. That's the thing, is that Smolder is, if you can stack him up, his infinite stacking will just like overpower your lack of AP damage at some point in time. So we've seen teams just like draft basically no AP Smolder compositions as well. Like Hanwha tried to do that against GenG, for example, in the game 3 of their series. So it is overpowering. It is going to be like a core part of this meta, like absolutely. And that's going to continue to be a feature. I do want to just put a capstone on the Team Liquid stuff because, it really is a lot of these players being unable to like mechanically outplay their opponents, even when Skarner is like very slowly charging at them with E. And it's not like they're just on the other side of the wall. They're just literally getting ganked and refusing to use flash, or then they get hit by the Skarner E and then are almost dead and use flash and die anyway. Like these are a lot of just really bad mistakes that I see from Team Liquid. The use of some of their ultimates, the lack of understanding about when to push forward in some of these team fights. They could have actually just had Weibo playing into them for most of the game. You don't actually have to flash into Weibo gaming. You can be playing for poke. And I think that's one of the weirder things about TL is that if you are playing Syndra Lucian and your opposing carries are Orianna Kalista, you absolutely can play a ranged game where you just poke them. You can use Scatter the Weak to set up a stun and then just use culling very aggressively into the person who's stunned. And they just don't do it. They don't set up the combos. They're trying to all in. They don't use range advantage. They don't use poke. They don't play patiently. They just look kind of out of sorts. And Weibo, I don't think really had a compositional advantage in that game. I felt like Team Liquid, frankly, just straight up had the better draft. And there wasn't any kind of conversion because Liquid was just playing so badly, kind of both in terms of team fighting and then at an individual micro level. So Team Liquid, it sucks because like you see this team draft well, you see them get themselves into winning positions, and it's just the execution that is god awful.
Just going to say, here's the problem with the whole world-class macro. Wasn't in that Pain Gaming series. Dom did it again. They were given Soul again. They were back in 19, whatever it was, 51 or whatever. Well, I don't know what it was. They given Soul. They were given Soul again, bro. If people don't know, that is one of the things that does tilt me, Monty, because here's the thing I don't get. I'm being serious right now. I understand, like, not being able in the moment to get, like, a setup on an objective, or not getting, like, sometimes you get caught in a fight before and you blow a valuable summoner or an ult that you need, etc. What I don't understand is where you actively, as a team, make the choice in the game to do things like that, to do things which just don't make objective sense, that you have to fight for that. You have to contest that. That's like the one. By the way, Asian teams every now and then do it too. That's the thing where you have to have protocols in your team, where your shot callers always are able to think like, what is the bigger picture? Because in that game, they just devolved into having a fucking fist fight in a back alley, mate. That wasn't even a fucking game.
I don't want to excuse that decision because there was absolutely a time for them to set up for the Soul and like take it, and they had done a very good job. I mean, here's the credit I will give to Team Liquid. They were playing a pick composition, right? They're playing Vi, Ahri, Kai'Sa, and with Jackson a side lane. And the purpose of this composition is basically to collapse onto side lanes or to get vision and create picks before a team fight starts. Like you're not going to win the straight up like front to back 5v5 against like Gnar, Nocturne, Orianna, Ezreal, Alistar, right? This is Team Liquid's playing a composition that we might see T1 run, for example. Like T1 would love a composition like this, where you have a lot of engage from a long way away. If Jax is split pushing, you can collapse onto Jax's lane. You start the fight, then Kai'Sa, you follow up with a Kai'Sa ult, and you get Kai'Sa in there, and you basically play with the man advantage in the skirmish at all times, right? They actually did a very good job of controlling vision prior to that point. Now, the mistake is they get an advantage, and we see the Baron is up, and the Soul is spawning very shortly, right? And so they have an opportunity to just actually go contest for the Soul instead of giving it over, and then probably win that fight and then do Baron. But, they obviously prioritize the Baron, end up losing the Soul. I think it has been, my opinion is not that was the right play, but the badness of that play has been overstated because it was an Ocean Soul, which is probably the second worst Soul. And here's the other thing. Ocean Souls are very good for a team that, let's say, wants to get into, you know, an extended engagement, which Pain Gaming does. Like, they want that 5v5. But if Team Liquid, who had a substantial gold lead, is going to win that game, they are reliant on burst damage. And Ocean Soul just doesn't help you with burst damage. So it's like, does the Ocean Soul really help Pain Gaming that much when Team Liquid is basically about single target burst? My response would be not really. So my take on that is, like, if it had been a Mountain Soul, then okay, we might have a problem, right?
Because I do think in general, though, teams do just treat the Soul sometimes like it's just another Dragon Bro, which does kill me. Like that is the good Souls for the good comps are OP as fuck, mate.
I still don't think they should have. I still don't think they should have done it, but it also wasn't the worst thing ever, in my opinion, because of the Soul, because of it being Ocean Soul, and because of the way that Team Liquid wants to play that game. But yeah, I agree.
People used to think it was TSM Jat and C9 Monty. Now it's Team Liquid Monty. Okay, we've made a transfers happened. Transfer on the fan market here.
It wasn't good.
Team Liquid.
But it wasn't. I mean, it didn't lose them the game, right? And I don't think it really hindered their composition or helped Pain Gaming that much.
Okay. Also, I saw Shocks do that joke on Twitter. Everyone does, where they keep doing that joke like, Spain without the S. No, with an AS on front of it. That's the better joke. There you go. That's a free one. There you go. I mean, all day, all week. Don't worry about it.
Let's talk
about.
Warm up.
Let's talk about Spain next week,
because we gotta have a laugh at Mad Lions KOI, because now fans are mad. It's another year, Thorin. The script is the same. Fans are mad that Mad Lions is at Worlds, and they're disappointing you yet again. Yet they've managed to do it with an entirely new coaching staff, 4 different players, only Elyoya.
Yep.
But I will tell you guys, you should not be mad at Mad Lions. As usual, we should be mad at Adam. That's who we should be mad at in this situation. People are like, it's just a garbage LEC format. The format is fine. It's not ideal. Like, I don't like summer playoffs into the season playoffs. There are things that are wrong with it. But objectively, if in winter, Adam hadn't been a piece of shit and gotten himself benched, and therefore given Mad Lions a ticket to the finals, which they almost certainly don't win if Adam is actually there, because Mad Lions almost lost to a sub, we don't end up with Mad Lions at Worlds. Okay? True. We don't end up with that situation. Yeah. So personally, I don't blame the format. I don't blame G2 for losing 1 best of 5. I just blame Adam.
That's a good take. Also, he has just lost his job potentially. That's what the rumor is. So let's see. Does he even play in LEC? Who knows at this point? The spoiler. I'll guarantee behind the scenes, everyone's heard those stories, mate. Everyone's heard those fucking stories. You got publicly benched. Like, I don't know. Let's see. You might be back in the LFL where you belong, where you can just dominate in the LFL. No, I agree. Because the problem is, Mad Lions, here's the difference. I still don't think it's the idea of like, it's fine to be shit or whatever. But I'll tell you what, they are like 4 rookies. I mean, people who haven't even experienced LEC level before, now they're at Worlds. Like, bro, what do you think they're going to do? Now, look, I will say, you don't expect them to lose to Gigabyte Marines. Like, let's just put that out. But I'll tell you what, Gigabyte Marines is just a sleeper, mate. I've underestimated them a lot. I'll tell you what, 100 Thieves found that out the hard way. A lot of people find out the hard way. You know what, Monty? A lot of people find out the hard way. You don't want to send 17 and 18-year-old inexperienced men to Vietnam to fight a war. Might not work. I don't want to feel like a hippie or something, Monty. You know, I'm more in the Richard Nixon camp personally, but you know,
it turns out historically, when you send Westerners to fight the Vietnamese actually win. They win that one, guys.
Yeah, they have booby traps, mate. They have tunnels that go underground. You never expect them. That's the problem. They're fighting in the jungles, guerrilla tactics. Exactly. Bro, the fucking CEO guy's running marathons for fun and then just like dead in bed, like, I can't move, please.
That guy's really fun. I had drinks with that guy last year when he was in Korea. He's a great time.
He seems sick. Unfortunately, he's actually, I think I know more about him than any of the players except Levi at this point in time, but fair play. Easy little guy, seemed all right. I think he's beaten it.
Look, Kiaya, I think, has been good. Like, this series that Mad Lions played was, let's just get that out of the way, extremely embarrassing. Extremely embarrassing. I've enjoyed watching Mirwin this year, but watching Mirwin on meta picks has been a struggle. Teams just permaban Nidalee against them because Elyoya plays Nidalee and Mirwin plays Nidalee, so why not just get rid of it? A lot of the flexes that they were using are just no longer in the champion pool anymore. So like the Zeri flex tricks that they were using in order to beat G2, Zeri's not really part of this world championship. Maybe the Ezreal flexes, we've seen a lot of Ezreal bans against Mad Lions as well. So that has kind of fallen out of favor. They don't seem comfortable. Like, well, they're first off, they're just bad at playing Yone. Like, let me get this out there. Frescowy is a bad Yone player. And they don't appear to play Aurora. So that's not going great. Mirwin's Rumble was tragic in this series. This is an extremely, extremely terrible performance from Mad Lions. And honestly, by the last game of this series, it looked like they had just given up and were trying to go home because they barely played the final game of the series.
That's the most whack part, because even though we'll address a little bit about it. Now, people are claiming that when Elyoya went on Ibai's stream and gave his sort of like opinions and stuff, and obviously people know, especially in his own language, he's spicy as fuck, right? People are saying it's a mistranslation, but all I'll say is this, like, where's the real translation? And can I have it? Can I see it? Like, but funny, I'll just say this. I was saying this to Monty before. You can't come into, there we go, I've done it already, demonetized video. Right, mark it down, Andrew. It was like an hour and 12 minutes or something, mate, right? You fucking arseholes. So that doesn't suddenly have the hit anymore that it should, does it? You arseholes are the same people who, when Wooloo in my domain just literally posts completely false information that isn't happening, or information from one source, badly sourced, even brags in Twitlongers that he's like sometimes putting in rumors that aren't sourced just to make you not believe he's true, and mental shit like that. Watch my video about it on my YouTube channel. You're all fine because you go, hey, at least some of it's true though. Why are you hating, bro? Why are you hating? Like, it's entertaining though, isn't it? It's TMZ, it's entertaining. Well, then you know what? This is entertaining, because I'll tell you what, one thing you can't say about this interview, if it's mistranslated, certainly wasn't fucking boring, was it? It was entertaining as fuck. For a start off, it had an angle that depressed the fuck out of me, Monty. I actually, low-key, I'll even tell you right now, before the GAM game, I actually sent Elyoya a DM, never spoken to him in my life. I sent him a DM where I just told him, like, you are one of the best Western players that we produced. Like, why can't someone like you fuck up the other players? Like, ignore the haters, like, just focus on your game, basically. Now, here's what's sad. When I think about what he's done publicly to teammates, how he's commented on things, and if any of this is true in this interview, the fucking ego of this guy, it's too far the other way, mate, because he's doing Idra level shit. And you know what, Monty? Firstly, because he was a dickhead to me as a person. I'm not one of the people who fondly remembers Idra, mate, because he had barely any results, and he used to be the worst example of delusion I have ever seen in professional esports. He would say, for real, that when you beat him with a low-skilled strategy, you played wrong, even though you beat him, and that what he did was fundamentally right, even though it fundamentally lost the game. That is literally, you are mental, because you're being an elitist when you aren't even elite, bro. So I can't believe the way he is framing things, because if you don't know, the translation I saw was implying that cause Mad Lions played a bunch of scrims, he's using Scrimbox. He's a Scrimbox millionaire. There you go. Make the meme. Elyoya, Scrimbox millionaire. And in scrims, he was having good scrims. He even had the audacity to suggest that he was playing, like, I can't remember who they said. I think it was like BLG or something. And he was saying that, like, when they didn't get smashed, they would just throw the game themselves. Right. But G2 beating Weibo in Worlds isn't impressive. So let's just check that out a second. We didn't beat BLG by our own inference, but we threw the game. They're not as better than us and overcame us because we're not as good. But us almost beating them in scrim, which we didn't win, is better than G2 checks notes at Worlds. I think I know the Mad Lions problem, mate. I think I've just cracked it right there. You know, the Worlds ones are the ones that count, mate. Send Elyoya the almost won scrims world championship of scrim fucking technology, you fucking idiot. But winning real games is what matters. Winning real games. You know that whole thing? Yeah, but Weibo is one of the worst Asian teams. And what do you think you are of the European teams, my dude? One of the worst? The worst? Bro, I think Fnatic's having a dog shit tournament. They look like fucking... They look world class compared to you. They're in games against Dplus. You're getting your shit pushed in by GAM. Bro, they're called GAM. You know GAM sucks. Because that hasn't become cool yet. That name would be like unique, and it just sounds whack still, because there's fucking upset merchants. You know, that's fundamentally good team.
I'm just sad they don't lean into the 1920s slang where nobody can say nice gams or anything like that, right? Like they should just be leaning into that hard as part of their brand identity. I mean, I don't even know what it stands for at this point in time. Has it just become TSM? I mean, it used to be It used to stand for Gigabyte Adonis Marines, but
Ooh, Adonis, that's fire. Okay, I like that.
but
I'm fucking
I
with
don't
that.
think they're sponsored by Gigabyte anymore. So
Oh, that's the problem, right? But
they're
I
just
also
GAM
do
now.
despise that. I hate that in esports, Monty, where it's like we're
Yeah.
Team Solo Mid, aka TSM, aka we're not Team Solo Mid anymore. We're just TSM. Shut
yeah,
up.
they just
Shut
disassociate.
up.
It's the
Oh,
worst
World
thing about
Elite.
post-modernity, isn't
What do
it?
you mean? We're Team WE, not World Elite. Yeah, that's worse. That means nothing. That means nothing, you idiot.
By the way, they could have just called themselves Adonis Marines, but whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, straight fire. That's straight fire.
The
By
best
the way,
looking military force.
Then their CEO guy could just do all fucking speedo poses, couldn't he? Like he could be the Adonis in this analogy. There you go. Looks like he's in shape.
Yeah. So Mad Lions come into this first game. They actually play a really clean first game against GAM. You think, oh, okay, well, maybe we're gonna get something going here. Maybe we're gonna, actually show up and have a clean series, get out, not be one of the first teams eliminated. I mean, GAM has people's numbers. They took out Team Liquid last year. They already took out 100 Thieves in this tournament. You can't disrespect them, even though some of their players are, to put it mildly, questionable. All right, so we flash forward to game 2. GAM then drafts a 100% ultra wombo combo composition that is entirely based off of ultimate cooldowns. Mad Lions, they're picking more of a, pick comp. They take Supa on the Xayah so that he can dodge some of these ultimates coming in. Now, does Mad Lions play around ult cooldown timers? No, of course they don't. Do they walk into choke points in the jungle where there's an MF waiting to just ult them? Of course they do. Do they giga feed Levi in this game so he becomes like this god tier 2-item power spike Wukong? I mean, he has Sundered Sky at like 10 minutes into this game, and he's just running riot all over Mad Lions. And then on top of that, the individual play is just terrible. Mirwin's Rumble play is awful. He's missing all of his ults. He's not putting them in the proper choke points. He is misusing his heat. So he's
Think
literally
about some of those characters, Monty. You're playing against an MF. Your Rumble could just shit on them, but you can't land the ult. Come on, bro. He
literally is walking into some objective team fights overheated where he can't ult at the start of the fight.
Love it.
I mean, it is bad. And then
that's
when
with the Team Liquid fucking Impact Nard bar usage, which is like, right, I can't go Megan out. Fight. Like, nah, man, get me out. Get me the fuck out.
He's like, Mirwin's like walking in from a lane into the river overheated. Like, it is wild. And then on top of that, when you do have ults, who are we playing? Who are we putting these ults into? It's Ilio. It's a literal support player that you are just dumping all of your ultimates into. Thorin's entering the darkness, apparently. There we go. They're dumping all of their ults straight into a rel. So we're using Vial, we're using Ariel, we're using Rakan ult onto a rel who lives, who then counter engages, and then you're caught in the fucking Kennen Wukong Rel Yone Wombo combo. It is crazy to watch the way this team was playing this game. And you should know, like, GAM literally drafted the most basic kind of pro comp that any halfway decent pro team should be able to track ult timers and find timing windows. And we obviously shouldn't be using all of our pick ultimates in order to try and kill a rel that we can't actually kill. It was bad. It's terrible.
We're finished with the shit teams yet? Are we still going? Are we going to the other European teams?
No, I want to go to the last game.
Some good teams. Come on.
I want to go to the last game of the series because it's even worse where like Frescowi is just TPing in after Supa has died to then die again on Yone. So we get the TPs that are terrible in this game. It is, Alvaro is making misplays. So they just do the lane swap improperly where Nautilus is like trying to hook under turret, but the problem is that the reason why you guys, when we see the lane swap and we see the support between the tier 1 and tier 2 towers, that's because they need the top laner to TP in first, and then you walk up, because if you walk up first and you use your Nautilus hook to get under that turret, they just kill you while the TP is channeling, which is exactly what happens, and then they kill Mirwin too. And it's like, how have we not learned how to do any of these things? How are we so bad at using TP? You know what I mean? Like, I just do not understand how they arrived at this place after practicing for Worlds. It was It was pretty appalling, but a deserved finish for Mad Lions based on their performance. Like, they did not show up in the last 2 games of this series. And this is a team that probably never should have been at Worlds. LEC, I think most people would say as a whole was pretty disappointing. There are a lot of good players in LEC. They're just not on the same teams. I think we all would have probably rather seen Carmine Corpier after the finish that they had in summer. But this is what you get. It's what you get because of Adam. It's all because of Adam. It's all because of Adam.
Yes. Should we actually talk about some good teams now?
No, because before we do that, I want to, if you would like to remove the stench, the stench of Mad Lions, let's put it that way, has been removed from Worlds right now. But if you are feeling a little odorous
still lingers,
yourself,
but yeah, how do we get rid of it?
Apparently you could never get rid of the stench of Mad Lions from Worlds. Right. It just keeps coming back. But that's not true. Your stench will not come back if you use our sponsor, Mando, of course, when they make delightful products for men. They're soap and deodorant products, so cleanliness products for you. And
soap's one of my favorites. It smells really nice.
Yep.
It's a classic feel of soap. Yeah, it's not too soft.
I've been using the bar soap as well, and I've actually surprisingly liked, I didn't know about this previously, but the cream deodorants, which are more like a lotion that you rub in and you could rub into anywhere. So I've been using that a lot recently, and it's been very, very good. And if you want to try it out, you guys can get a starter pack, and that starter pack includes, you can get, you pick your scents. They've got ones like bourbon leather. You can get unscented if you're not into that. You get more of the like sports style deodorant scents as well. So it is very, very good. It's not an antiperspirant, so it doesn't contain aluminum or anything like that. It is designed to stop the BO before it actually starts. So I've been using it every day, guys. It's been great. And I've also enjoyed their deodorant wipes in particular, which is something that you can use to freshen yourself up, especially if you're outside. The PC. Yeah, put them by the PC, put them in your gym bag, take them camping with you. I didn't think I'd be using them as much as I have been, but I've been using them quite a lot. And you can get a starter pack just to try it out with all these things, see if you like it. You can get a Mando starter pack. It's perfect for new customers. Comes with a solid stick deodorant, which is what you're used to probably, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like their body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special
How
offer
much of a saving is that off the starter pack then?
That's right. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Using code summoning at shopmando.com. shopmando.com. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. So we like it. It's been great. I've enjoyed using it a lot. And my wife has enjoyed the scents as well. So I can say other people that you may be in relationship with also appreciate this. So
I've got 2 angles for you. One thing actually that is very underrated is you'll notice, Monty, how many of the products will say something on it like, for you, son, your pits, like basically like your balls and your feet or something. You might go, wait a minute, my pits. No, that's right. By the way, guys, I've got some bad news for you. If I made a video, it was called like how to clean your ass in the shower or whatever, you'd all go, everyone knows that. No. Every young man after a certain age of your birth, but I'm gonna say like 1990 at this point in time, or under the age of about 28, doesn't understand hygiene whatsoever. Because spoiler, if you haven't lived with a woman long term, you've never had the consequences of actually not taking care of your hygiene. And spoiler, that's part of why you're not getting them. So one, that's an angle where most people aren't even doing anything. And you're just thinking, I don't smell. I've told this before. The olfactory senses work based on changes in the environment, not actually a smell on its own. Secondly, also, Mad Lions fans are part of the problem as to why that stench exists. And they're kind of like the bacteria that feeds on sweat. Because in this case, they just think Mad Lions is trying hard. And in the West, if you just try, that's enough, right? So you're all going to try really hard. And you're feeding on that, on the sweat equity, the effort of the players, and you think that's enough to make it good. That's not, because when it comes to the top level, I want things to be clean. That's what I value. Cleanliness, not sweat. So in this particular case, smell clean with Mando.
All right. Let's talk about the good teams now, Thorin. What do you got? Who do you want first?
Well, I mean, we'll go in stages, so I won't go straight to the top of the good teams. But I'll tell you what. Obviously, the game of the tournament was obviously the fucking T1 BLG one. That was the most hype game. It was, by the way, it was a game that was on a knife edge the whole way through. You even look at it, I think it's got so many angles you can address. Like, one angle I thought was very interesting about it was, Nate, what's funny is what T1 did in this game, and it makes me wonder if this is actually their edge when they play the LPL teams, is they somehow know that classic thing, which is you can get LPL teams to team fight you all the time. They will just say yes. And so even when BLG, they've got a dragon and they can get out, no, why don't we get a dragon and the fight? The one that actually tilted me, Monty, as a fan, remember, I'm a European. I love mid lane play. I love great side laning. Bro, if I have these two solo laners on BLG fed, I'm not fighting you. We can fight for the objectives, but after that, I'm sorry. Why were they just fighting all the time? Why were they accepting every fight? This is like they thought, for real, I wonder if it's some scrims. They thought they were going to hand stiff T1 every time, it felt like. They thought they were just going to clap them.
So there were a few things. There are a few things about this game that I thought were interesting. First off, you give away Jax and Ahri, arguably the signature champs of Bin and Knight. I mean, we're talking about an 85%-ish win rate on Ahri, historically for Knight. So it was a really bold call, you have to say. And not only that, but Faker just picked Sylas in the first round of the draft, and the Sylas, in my opinion, doesn't have a lot of value in this particular game. Like, you're stealing like what, a Skarner ult, an Ahri ult. I mean, Ahri ult's okay, right? Obviously, but it's not like one of those games where we're seeing the Sylas picked and you're getting crazy value out of like for example, the game that LNG played against Dplus, where you have the Alistar ult to steal, right? Or you have Maokai ult. That's like the fucking Sylas dream game that Scout played. And it makes a lot more sense. So it's not that I don't think it's viable. I just think that, Poppy, Skarner, Ahri, and Jax ults and Jhin ults are not maybe the best ults in the game to steal as a Sylas, and especially to pick it so early on in the draft. T1 also selects, even though there are many comfort champions here for them, obviously, like Kalista, support Nico for Keria, Gnar for Zayas. Gnar is Zayas' most played champion of all time. He's got over a 70% win rate on that pick. Owner on the Vi. So it's a lot of comfort picks. But if you actually look at this composition, it's extremely low range, right? You are playing with, if Gnar's in Mega, right, basically everybody low range except for Nico. So even though many of these players...
What was also tilting me, bro, what was also tilting me was this. Right, if I'm BLG and I'm fed, I have Ahri, Jhin, and Poppy. Bro, they can never team fight me if I don't want them to. Poppy hits out the carry, Ahri goes backwards, and Elk is fucking a million miles away on Jhin, like a sniper from a million miles away, which is quite popular in American culture right now, it seems. Bro, why am I ever team fighting? Why am I going in? Why am I at melee range all the time? What the fuck is this? What is this? This was like Mark and Clockwork Orange watching this game. No, please. Please, I give up.
So I do want to give credit to T1 though, because I looked at these drafts and I was like, it's going to be really hard. Like, you can play this as a pick comp for sure, and T1 is the best pick comp team in the world, no doubt. So whenever T1 runs something that can be used to create picks and to control vision, you're feeling good about it. But T1 really had some masterful timings around objectives here, where they would win a skirmish and they would just send them back to base and then take objectives uncontested. Yes. They had a bad fight in the bot lane, which led to BLG then going to the Baron. But what was so interesting about that fight is that, in my opinion, Bin and On played it really badly, where Bin jumped out of the pit instead of finishing the Baron, and that gave T1 an opening, and they really had to see this. And big credit to Owner and Keria for the way they played this, but they just go on to Elk and Knight, and basically the rest of their tanks are way too far behind in order for them to affect the play. So they actually win a 4 versus 5 when Faker is still dead.
It looked unwinnable. Yeah,
they played it really well. So T1, if you give them those angles and those engages, if they're having a good day, they can absolutely fuck you up. And
here's the saddest thing, Monty. I can even tell you that was a game, if you followed esports long enough. I don't actually believe T1 players are better than BLG players. I don't even think BLG players think they're better. But I'll tell you what, in that game, that was fucking aura. You know what all the Zoomers like to say? Dude, BLG, even though I said they like to take every team fight, they would abandon fights too. Like in the fight you're talking about. If they'd have all followed in Kerry and that, they win that fight. But they didn't. And the amount of times T1 could get out with low health is fucking crazy. So that looked like actually BLG was the scared team in that game, mate.
I mean, they should have just finished the Baron, and Bin's like jumping out of the back of Baron pit on the Jax. And, you know, they're all basically strung out in a line in River, and T1 just calls the snap engage, and they have Vi Q, Vi ults, like Keria zoning out the tanks, and they pick off Elk and Knight really early on into that fight. It's a great team fight from T1, not to take it away from them. But, you know, T1 had the better macro in this game. They were finding the picks. They were finding the timings to get objectives uncontested. They avoided the 5v5s for the most part, or they broke those 5v5s or those team fights into smaller skirmishes that they were able to win. But also, like, what's going on with BLG? This is a team that was one of the favorites coming in. And, you know, we look at Bin. Bin might be the best top laner in the world. Knight, he might be the best top laner in the world, probably second best to Jovi, right?
Mid.
But
that's top. It's all good.
Or mid, yeah, sorry. But it's like these players, we expect more out of them, and especially, you know, On coming in with, I mean, I don't think Elk and On had as strong of a year as they did last year, and I think they're still riding on some of the momentum that they generated, you know, in spring and then also last year. But, you know, On, as we said earlier, is a potential Dade Award candidate, but Bin also, like, some of his positioning has been really weird in some of these games, and it's not that his laning has necessarily been bad, but he hasn't been the effective force in team fights, and something just feels really off about BLG. And now they're in a place where, like, I don't think they're going to lose to PSG, but they only have one win, and they need to win 2 best of 3s, and depending on the draw that they get, they may suffer, right? They may suffer. And, you know, I don't think, you know, they're losing to LNG, who they should beat, you know, based on the performance in the LPL. And then they're losing to T1, who came into Worlds in a much rougher position. And I don't even think really had a better composition in this game.
No. But the difference is T1 played their comp way better, like you say. Sure. I actually did think, like, they actually had, it's like you say, actually, their just understanding of what to do and when was way better. It was way better. Speaking of which, Way, who I got hated on, I put him quite low. I said shit like Razork and Inspired are better. Everyone was hating on me so hard because he's an LPL champion. Bro, what's he done this Worlds?
Yeah, he's up there. He's not hyped up enough, I think, because, like, obviously he's coming in for Jun, who played in spring, so he's not really a Dade Award candidate, but he has been one of the lower performers on the team alongside On, for sure.
I mean, let me double check something really quickly, though.
Sure.
Because I want to see what his actual, like, if he made, like, All-Pro in the LPL. I bet he did, because he was on top team, so let's see. Did they give him All-Pro? Let's see.
I mean, a lot of the narrative was around him, you know, kind of switching up their style from that really bot-focused style.
Fair enough. They didn't give him All-Pro, to be fair, so that's okay. Maybe he's not a Dade Award winner. Okay, that's all good. Back on you, though, On. I'm looking at you, motherfucker. I'm looking at you. Because, but also, by the way, Monty, oh, bro, it's like I need to do a course for young players. Would you like to be a pro one day? Well, yes, Thorin, of course I would. Are you putting in the hours, young man? Yeah, I'm playing all the time in solo queue. And have you studied your macro? Yeah, of course. Are you listening to LS's itemization videos? Yeah, every day. Well, stop doing that, obviously. Just fucking play normal meta, like League of Legends. There's a joke in there. But what I would then say is this. Final step, and this is really important, is don't become a meme unless it's a positive one. So it's all about your name. Let me explain to you names. Don't call yourself On, because you know what's going to happen if you have a shit game, don't you? You're off. That's just right there. That's low-hanging fruit, mate. You gotta watch out for those ones. You know what I mean? Super, again, mate. If it ever goes badly, pooper. It's right there. Maybe fucking. There's many ones we can go with other ones anyway. But the point is, if you pick those names, it's going to end badly for you. So, I do think On right now, he is the prime candidate for the Dade Award. He is the prime candidate.
Yeah.
This is the Dade Award winner so far.
Yeah, and like we said, even if they make it to quarters, if they bomb out in quarters and he's a big part of that loss, then he can still get it, guys.
They do need a massive glow up in playoffs, clearly. No, look, the exciting part is this. They're totally capable of it. Like, on paper, they should still be able to beat everyone left. Like, look, they could end up playing a TES, they could end up playing a Wibber. Even so, the BLG that was winning is supposed to beat those teams. So that's okay. That's okay.
I'll also remind people that when it comes to BLG, they were pretty sloppy in the regular season of summer of LPL. It's not like they were winning a bunch of 2-0s. When we look at who is winning cleanly, it was Top Esports, who went on a 14-game win streak in their last 7 best-of-3s to get into the playoffs. BLG was frequently going to third games, and they were frequently losing the first games of these series before bouncing back. And it was really these game 3s where they looked really clean and dominant. And so I'm just wondering, Thorin, maybe the BO1s are actually just shit for BLG.
For sure.
Like,
I mean, I've always thought personally that it's the opposite way around. I've always thought Koreans are gods in BO1s because they just do like a really interesting, like strong meta draft. LPL teams have played BO3s for years now, Monty. They really do like fuck around. Like they can start with the dumbest draft ever in game 1. Then they're, all right, learn from that. Right. You don't have time in the BO1. And these BO1s now, like, yeah, you know what? If this had been a BO3, wouldn't we all be excited as fuck for game 2? There is no game 2, bro. You lost it. That's a tournament life gone. You have to take these matches really seriously. And that's an example of what we were talking about earlier. You won draft. But draft isn't everything. Draft isn't the game, even though that's part, I think that's even why people flamed LS, because he said, like, from the draft, like, T1 should never win or something like that, which is like, by the way,
they shouldn't. I don't think this is a good draft.
See, this is where they're not, this is where I know who isn't a T1 fan. They're just a dickhead who's in love with T1. There's a difference. A T1 fan is someone who loves watching T1 play beautiful League of Legends. T1 fans want someone to win no matter what. So what they want you to say, Monty, is because they won, they must have won draft. One, that's an absurd premise in League of Legends. And here's 2. In Counter-Strike, people used to get really mad at Henry G because Henry G would call games early. He would go like, right, they're up like in like like they're up 13-3, the money's in control, like this game's pretty much over. And then if a comeback happened, they're so stupid, they'd go,
same thing
oh
happened to
my
me.
God. That's the point I'm talking about here. The reason T1 was impressive wasn't the idea they're better than BLG's players. They're not. But actually, they played with an inferior comp that they knew how to play better in all points of the game after the early game than BLG knew how to play the powerful meta picks that are the fucking strongest champions for them. Bro, that is impressive. That is a fucking win for the mind of T1, for the coaching of T1, for fucking Faker, for Carrier. Oh, that's the part that's impressive, yeah.
Yeah, and also I do want to glaze T1 a little bit because their early games have been good. And you know, one aspect of T1 that they have struggled with previously sometimes was lane swaps, and those have been a lot better at Worlds. They've been getting like a lot of advantages in the early games from these lane swaps. So T1 out, but if you guys want to know, like basically T1 comprehensively outplayed BLG on the map for the early game of this game. And it was their mistakes that led to BLG going to that Baron, and they had to pull out the hero play in order to win. They should not have had to pull out the hero play. That's what gives you the evidence that you need that maybe this composition isn't that good. Maybe this isn't ideal for 5v5 team fighting. And it makes it more impressive that they won. But after the early game edge that they had, it shouldn't take like those fucking heroics. The downside of T1,
Alex is still on his classic shit. Which, listen, don't ever quit it, bro. You are the best at it, and it's a double down on your brand. I love that he's still doing that thing where after draft, it's like, I can take my hands off the keyboard. Game's won. Nothing you can do right now. Just checkmated you, sir. Exordia, I believe that's Exordia. What do you want? When you want to have one, it's like we just have to play the game, though, isn't it?
Well, people used to get mad at me for calling games early too, and they'd be like, "See, Monty, it wasn't over." And I'm like, "But you're hyped because I said it was over, which made it a more hype moment when it actually wasn't over, and actually is validating the comeback that your team is making." I'll tell you what, mate.
The opposite, and StarCraft 2 in the West was the worst ever for this. The opposite is way worse. Doesn't everyone hate it when the team is down 10k gold, all the objectives, all the souls, all the lives? They've got to hit the base. It's impossible, you cretin. Like, literally, there's times when, like, a fucking Dr. Mundo could just stand there while you all 5 use all ults and he wouldn't even be dead. Like, you can't win this game. That's way worse than going, it's over, because, like, you have the edge of the draft, you have the edge in the game, you have the edge from objective. As you say, Monty, if they lose that Baron, that probably is game. You can just play it out from that point in time. It doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing can go wrong for BLG. Yeah. I mean, that was like they had to whip that out of the fire last second.
Use your brains, T1 fan. What happens if BLG gets Baron in that situation and you are playing with Callista Silas? Who clears the waves? Who is supposed to do? You just lose. You just lose the siege. You lose all your towers, you just die. You can't do anything. You at that point in time, you are literally hoping for like the miracle flank engage, like the miracle TP. That's how you win. That is why T1 realized they had to go now in a 4 versus 5. And they pulled it off. And they did it really well. So let's celebrate. Again, it's not... T1 fans want to celebrate T1 for every reason. Can we please just celebrate them for the right reasons and the impressive things that they do, including beating potential tournament favorite BLG, which is a good win. Very good.
And Faker showed in this game that, one, he has incredible respect for Knight. He's trying to steal from him in the game. And then two, his team stole a game. They're dishonorable. They should actually just win. They should just play out the draft properly and then honorably lose because they're supposed to lose. How dare you steal? Why not just win honorably with face? By the way, I've got a side angle I want to ask you about. Which go, oh yeah, before we do that, actually, I'll pause that. I've got a little mental note. Obviously, we have to do the T1 angle because here's the thing. They've all started doing it already. Fedius, I've got to say, mate, could you just please exit the server? He's doing that thing where, one, he already did a take today that was like, last time Fnatic played Weibo, remember that Alistair thing happened? Trimby never played another game for Fnatic in his entire career, by the way. So what would the relevance of that be? What you mean there, Caedrel, is last time Fnatic with different players played against this team, something happened that won't happen again. Oh, brilliant. Thanks for that update there, mate. I can see why your people were in fucking mines in Wales, mate. You know what? I think you and them fucking dwarves should just fuck off back down there. Like you're not ready for the world of the humans and the elves and that shit. Like we're on some other level, mate. You just get down there, fucking miners thing on, and then go up to a little fax cartridge and see your wife. Enough said. Right. And then also on the T1, I've seen every commentator do this. You're all whack. I'm the king of narratives. You're shit at narratives. Their narratives. Oh my God. T1 doing it again. This is just like in the past. They look bad early, and then they adapt to the meta. They haven't adapted to the meta. They played shit in the meta. We just explained they didn't invent a new meta. They're not. No one's copying that draft right there, by the way. They shouldn't even copy that draft. They should take that draft, put it in the waste paper basket bin, and set on fire. Because if they do anything other than that draft, they have a chance to actually win normally. The problem is, Monty, we have to do it right now before they get to the position where they can actually get in the playoffs and do something. We're going to call it now. Does this make you think, because look, they had the aura, like I said, they had the clutch factor, they played better under pressure. Are they going to do a deep run in this World's T1? MonteCristo, what do you think?
Yeah.
How deep are we going though?
Semis. So there's a few things here to talk about historical things that actually do fucking matter. This roster, this lineup in the last 3 years has placed top 3 at every single international tournament they've played in. Their floor has been really high. Okay. Every MSI, Esports World Cup, every World, minimum 3rd place. Minimum, right? So they've made the last 2 World Finals. They won one of them, right? They look like they're in better shape now. I will caveat this, though. And, like, here's the thing. T1 didn't even look good in groups last year. And then by the time the brackets came around, they powered up big time. Yep. So I have to believe that this team can adapt. It would be fun for them to lose to G2, I will say, in the next round and have G2 immediately get into quarterfinals.
You're doing that because you want to have one Western team that's good that can do it. I think it's funny. Here's the thing. I want the suffering to be more severe. So here's the thing. I want them to make it to playoffs. But are you ready? Here's my draw. Quarterfinals, GenG T1. Oh, tell you what, that's amazing because 1, you have to beat the best team in the world. 2, if Chovy goes out in round of 8, hey, Faker fans, I'm setting up for you too. If he goes out round of 8 there, you can clap on him all day long. But I tell you what, that would be spicy. So that's what I'm pulling for. T1 makes it out. Maybe they beat like a Dplus or something. We'll see. And then they get there and then they fucking play GenG. That's my dream. My dream.
But you know, the counter arguments to this are as follows. Like Faker's champion pool still looking wacky. His Yone is bad. There's not really another way to say that. Like beating Pain Gaming with it is not. I mean, if you want the real deal, like just go watch him play in LCK playoffs on Yone, and you'll be like, this guy's Yone is bad. Like watching him beat up Brazilians with it is not what's going to inspire you to say that his champion
I've
is
got a
good.
question for you, Monty. What would you think if I told you Gumayushi had played Ashe, Draven, and Kalista? What would you think of that?
That
Does that
sounds
sound
like
like he's ready
Gumayusi.
for Worlds? Is he ready to win
Yeah.
Worlds, bro? Is that, are you winning Worlds on
Look,
those
the
picks?
Kalista and the Ashe are good, and people will always have to ban Ashe against T1, which is a unique,
Sure.
you know, feature of their style of play. One thing that really did disturb me about T1 was in their game versus top esports when they had basically an opportunity to do Baron and they just sat there not doing Baron, which was, by the way, very unlike T1.
Oh, no, completely. Yeah.
And I was like, wow,
Listen,
they really...
someone who had a bet on top esports, in the same way, Monty, when I had a bet on Fnatic and then I saw Cream lock in Yone, I got sad from the draft like LS would. But also in that moment, as someone with a TES bet on, I was loving that. I was like, oh my God, if they give it this, it's over. If they give it this, it's over, bro. You have to go for this.
T1 had vision control and they had opportunity just to collapse onto Baron at like 25 minutes into that game. And I was just sitting there doing the VOD review on my stream and just yelling at them like, this is so, just try it, like get a TP out, get something out of them, and they just didn't. It was very weird. It's very unlike T1 not to just TP and then all in on the Baron. So
anyway,
I think
quick chance to just be correct to a moron that's annoying. So no, never mind, actually, that's all good. I was going to say, by the way, do you actually specifically think that G2 has a chance to beat them, though? Because that's the problem. Now you have to counterbalance it. Are they clutch with, like, G2 is supposed to always have a chance? They've always got a chance,
right,
bro.
so
Which is
let's
it?
use this opportunity to talk about G2 then, because we have seen some. I'm gonna start by throwing some water on the hype around G2, which was that a lot of people were saying like, ooh, they came so close to beating Hanwha Life. Like, wow. Guys, threw that game incredibly hard. They literally unnecessarily tower dove in the top side in a game where they were shitting on G2, and then through the game. And then not only that, but it took them getting, G2 had to get 3 Barons in the row, including after the Hanwha throw in top side.
And they still lost.
And Yike had to pull off a fucking miracle steal, which, by the way, was a huge misplay from Hanwha again, which I heard, Thorin, people were saying, oh, Peanut said that they didn't see Yike coming. They thought he was bot side. I then looked at the VOD, Thorin, and I saw that they had hawk-shotted Yike with Ashe while he was running to pit. And then they put a pink ward behind the pit, and so they saw him walking. And I was like, Peanut's just fucking lying, guys. And I told people, I told my chat, I was like, guys, you can't just believe what pro players say. Like, look, he knew where Yike was. I don't know how to say this. He knew Lilia was coming. If he didn't know, like, he doesn't have eyes or nobody on his team was saying anything.
Peanut in his politician era already, just lying in press conferences. All right, go for that, I guess, mate. You can't fact check your life.
I mean, if he's telling the truth, you guys pick which one it is. Either he was lying or he's telling the truth, in which case you should be like, Hanwha, what the fuck is wrong with you? That is horrible, because you literally saw this guy twice and nobody said or did anything. But, you know, they get the...
And he still didn't win after that. But you have to take 3 Barons. You still don't win the game.
2 of those Barons you didn't deserve.
No.
2 of those Barons, at minimum, you didn't deserve. But Hanwha could have closed that out reasonably quickly, and then they just kind of leaned on Zeka getting a bazillion stacks and like Dragon Soul and everything like that. So I think Hanwha is a much better team. So that's my hype eliminator right there for G2. And now I'm gonna go ahead and build them up a little bit, because we also did see some really good stuff from them. And they still have that same magic that we really enjoy from G2. Let me find the game where Broken Blade was.
I mean, the way they played against Weibo.
The way they played against Weibo was awesome. Like,
they fought really well,
I really liked the Galio pick in this situation, and Broken Blade's getting like solo kills on Breathe. Caps is on Orianna, one of his all-time staples. Hans on Kalista, one of his all-time staples. You know, they're figuring out how to use the Nocturne. They're using it super effectively. They're engaging, you know, with Nocturnal, with Galio ult onto the back lines. I think this is a good game from G2. And even though there were some mistakes made by other people, Broken Blade had a massive game, like really good. And so you got to see some unique picks. And like, I appreciated what G2 was doing in this game. I think they had a savvy draft, which we know they can do. The meta feels a whole lot better for them, obviously. Caps is still a great Trist player. Cass is now, you know, He can carve it up there with Yone as well. So I think G2, even though people were overrating that game that they played against Hanwha, the takeaway from the Hanwha game, Thorin, is that unlike other Western teams, when there is a throw, they can actually catch it, right?
Yes.
And sure, should Yike have gotten that Baron steal? No. Is it good that he at least fucking tried? Yes. Like, yes. G2 is a team that will always be looking for angles, always be trying to find these angles, and they're really good at finding them. So they're an excellent team at playing from behind. Broken Blade's having a great tournament. They can beat T1. I think they could do it. When it comes to a lot of the mistakes that we see teams making against T1, like, I don't think G2 will make a lot of those same mistakes. BLG was uncharacteristically bad. So T1's path, hasn't been the toughest. They lost to top esports, and then they beat Pain Gaming, and then they beat a kind of weakened BLG. So G2 will have a couple days to think about this, to prep their level 1s, their drafts. T1, I think, is much more limited in their drafts than G2 is. They can,
which, by the way, is also, it's funny. It feels like we're back in 2019, Monty. Isn't it dope to actually have a Western team that can have the draft edge over a fucking Asian team? That didn't exist for like 10 years, guys. Like, it's actually sick where like we're the ones who can do we can do it the fucking flex. We can do the pick you can't do. That's a power pick. Like, that's fucking dope. By the way, though, that's why the BLG game is the ultimate hype builder for T1, because they've proved they could play out with an inferior comp. Let's just fucking have it, because best thing is, remember, it's going to be best of 3 this series, Monty. Now I'm fucking engaged. Now I want to see this game. Because I'll tell you what, if you go to that Weibo game, Monty, there's a bunch of times where I could pause the fight when it's just been engaged, and you would swear Weibo's going to win the fight. That they've got like the initial taunt, or they've locked and bro, the way that like G2 carved them up, got the carries, pushed people off, it was beautiful. It was a sick game. It was actually a really fun game to watch too.
It was a really fun game. And, I also am really excited about this matchup because
I was watching it the whole time going, yeah, you should have seen what I almost did against BLG in scrims.
We got to see this matchup, at MSI twice. And sure, the lower bracket run was 3-0, to T1. But the upper bracket one, G2 almost won. So we've seen that G2 can actually compete with T1 this year. And that's exciting. So I don't think G2 is going to win, but I do think that they definitely have a better shot than most.
I want to see
winning this matchup.
MSI Caps solo killing Faker. Because here's the thing. Ooh, that's fucking spicy. First of all, some go-on-go
Caps
action.
is the better player right now. Caps is better than Faker at this event. That's just true.
That's the best part, the seethe of the T1 fans when Caps kills him. Oh, it's beautiful. Love it. Love that shit. Love it. Because remember, that's not some bullshit like the LPL. Like, we are beating LCK. You got like fucking rookie mid lane dickhead. He's from the LCK. Or like NA, like, yeah, check us out, boys. We're beating IG with CoreJJ, world champion from LCK. This is all Europeans, motherfucker. Caps. He grew up in Denmark eating a shitty hot dog going, all right, go. This Swedish people can't understand me when I speak Swedish because I have a fucked up accent. And then he became good enough to go head to head with your god. Remember, this is why I'm going to use your tactics against you guys, your own narratives, because I don't think Faker is actually on the elite level anymore. And I actually think in his team, he doesn't even play that role. He's like a captain. He's a fucking general at this point in time. He's not there to actually be like the swordsman or the duelist, the guy who defeats you with his hands and fucking destroys you. He's not Neo in the Matrix. But in this analogy, like, you guys still hype him as that. So I'll tell you what, when Caps comes along and actually beats him 1v1, what you can do then? It's going to get real fucking quiet, I'll tell you right now. And also, if G2 does send T1 to that 2-2 game, ooh, because I've always thought, Monty, the problem with T1 is they're also very rarely actually on elimination point in series. You notice that? Like, they often do just like beat you in 3-4 games or 2-0, whatever. Let's see. Let's put them in a game at the end. Because here's the obvious angle. If you're a real piece of shit, here's what you really want, Monty. You want the 2-2 game to be T1 Dplus. Now that is how you make a lot of people like you could even though they won Worlds 20, you could cause a soul wound in T1 fans if King wins that game. If he wins that game, and by the way, whoever the support Dplus choose to put in, that is where Kerrier, you better get the fucking smelling salts, you better get tissues ready. It's going to be a bad step. Don't even check Reddit, bro. Don't even check social media. Get off Foremost, get off DC Inside. I want you to stay alive, healthy, and mentally focused on your future because you still got one. But that's the game I want. That's the haters parade. I want G2 beats T1 into T1 plays Dplus. There's my dream.
I'll even give the EU fans some copium, which is that had the quarterfinal of MSI been a best of 3, G2 would have won.
That's true. That is true.
So there you go. I'm trying to gas up those EU fans. It is doable.
Okay, shout out to the T1 fan in the chat who just said genius. I love that people in the modern day don't go, am I wrong? Should I address whether I'm fundamentally wrong? They go, no, I just need to change what words mean. So he goes, yeah, they're T1, they're not favorites, but one of the contenders. You just took the word favorite and changed it there. Like contender means one of the favorites. Like that's you're just playing games.
It means you're contending for a title.
I can't handle it. This is mental. I know. I love it. I love it. Also, the other angle, I'll give you one last angle, one last dream for T1. Let's say they do make it, Monty. They beat G2 here. They draw. Fuck it. Let's say they draw LNG and they beat them. That's not impossible. I think LNG might play a little bit worse than the playoffs. They beat them. They get to that semis. You ready, Monty? You hype now. It's Faker's always top 4 at Worlds. Faker has won half of the Worlds. He's like Brady. Brady had all the Super Bowls. And then here's what happens. You know what? My mistake. I apologize to T1 fans. I was actually being too much of a hater. I don't want you to play GenG in the quarters. I want you to play them in the semis, and it's a 3-0 clap. Faker gets clapped every lane. He's down in CS every lane. Zeus doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He loses to Dora. No, actually, that's too far. That's it. I don't know life. He loses to fucking Keen, who doesn't even play carries in the series. He just plays shit like Asante. He doesn't even attempt to play the carry series. They're forcing Zeus in the draft to do bullshit. Yone picks top lane. They lose. At the end of it all, that's the end of that roster ever. 3-0 clapped in semis. That's the true hater dream. It's plausible. It can happen. That's plausible.
And then Faker role swaps to jungle in the offseason. And they try and get
then I do my video, the most ring-chasing, overrated coach. Are you ready? This is where you're going to... I'm not a liar, Monty. So here's what I'll put. More overrated coach of the last 8 years. See what I did there? Listen, I'll give him it for the first ones. He killed it. The last 8 years, though. No, but not quite my tempo, Coleman. Not quite my tempo. Not feeling it, mate. Not feeling it. That is haterism, but whatever. It's all good. It's all good. That's what I'm here for. By the way, Monty, as a little aside, I won't do a big thing in it because I'm going to do a Thorin versus Reddit, but I'm waiting for the thread to get mega upvoted and marinate because I have got one of the most hilarious owns of all time. In the Weibo G2 thread, someone took a screenshot of me saying, fun best of one betting, and I got all 4 best of ones wrong. Now, first of all, Monty, the idea you could get best of ones wrong is mental. Are you ready? Do you know why I might have gotten some? Let's see if you can guess. Why do you think I might have gotten some best of one?
The odds were crazy, so you were betting on underdogs.
Monty, everyone intentionally ignores that and says I was doing predictions and that this proves I'm wrong. So here's the maddest one. They actually say for real, he took Fnatic to win that game. They had 4-1 odds, Monty. And if you watch that game, I'll take that again tomorrow. If you had that game again tomorrow, I'll take it again immediately. So what's funny is I'm going to wait, but this is what's mad. For me to be totally wrong and know nothing, people have to pretend bets are predictions. I love it. I love it. That's the level of cultural impact I have. And speaking of cultural impact, Monty, we're Valorant already, bro. I sent you the link. We're Valorant already. Fucking Caedrel's stream has more views than the entire fucking real stream. What are we even doing at this point in time? What even is this esport? It isn't an esport. It's just children's entertainment with people going like that. Mate, that's what is. It's not a sport, mate. It's not a sport anymore. What are we doing? What is this? What are we doing? Can you explain this to me?
I can't.
Mate.
As a former,
Caedrel, he's killing it.
Yeah,
as a cast, he's the only one who escaped, mate. He escaped the Bane pit. He's fucking living large. He's killing it. No, he controls the stock market.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like when he worked really hard and was using all of his time to build up his own stream when he wasn't at the studio. And he would even go so far as to work so hard that he would like co-stream LCK and LPL in the mornings and then go cast, LEC in the afternoons. The real question is, why other casters? Where have you guys been for the last 10 years? Where are your streams? Where's your... Oh, you never made any. Maybe that's why you're in this position. Sucks, man. And you never unionized, so you just allow a situation where your voices are going out on other people's personal streams and they're monetizing your job instead of you. So
to be fair, there is some side work though. You can sometimes get work starring in music videos where it's like worlds, each year worlds. Like, man, Captain Flowers, you'll never live that L down, man. Not even just because they turned out to be like wrecking, plucking players and shit, and with dog shit worlds, but that you'll never live that video down. It's so bad. It's your rapping was okay. I'll give you that. Actually, that wasn't bad. But that video was so fucking bad. It was like offensively bad how bad that was, mate. It was mental, wasn't it? I know. We EG and we out here like I can't please.
But I mean, like Caedrel worked really hard to get into this position, and it's been shown.
That's what I like about all the core streamers. LS, Caedrel, and Dom slaved like a motherfucker to get to this point, man. They earned it. They had to put mental hours in these three. The joke is, I'm not joking. They probably have taken 10 years off their life with the fucking shit they've done, mate. But I'll tell you what, the rest of their lives, they will live in a fucking little villa in the fucking south of France if they want, going back to their main penthouse suite in fucking wherever, London, be wherever you want, Berlin, you pick it.
I mean, Ellis took the obvious joke is that Ellis may have taken 10 years off his life through all the co-streaming, but he won't look like it because he's able to buy the salmon sperm injections for his face to maintain the fountain of youth forever.
I even watched that video and was like, my God, what are you doing, mate? Listen, I've already just got to the level like Mando where I'm putting soap under my bloody arms. You're fucking putting semen in your face. Monty, I don't know where we're going with sponsorships, but I do draw the line at a certain point, you know what I mean? Like, listen, I'll use soap. I'll use it on my balls, maybe even. I'll put shit on the bottom of my feet. But I'll tell you what, mate. Here's the thing. First of all, I don't need to look young. I already look like I found the fountain of youth, mate. I still look fucking 28. What you didn't know, you idiots, is I never actually got old. I just got fat, you fucking morons. I was just smoking weed. I have a home cinema, and I was just going, yes, I think I will watch a fucking sick movie. I am watching Aliens while eating I want to have something savory, something sweet, something fucking chocolatey, something from the UK, and then I'm going to drink full sugar sodas. That's the reason. I'm like simple. My head just went like that, didn't it? But I'm still the goat. So now I lost the weight. What do you want? I'm back, bitches. I'm rolling 10 years off this motherfucker.
Too good. So anyway, I
agree though, the incentive structure doesn't make any sense. What you're saying basically, Monty, is what we've always known. It was you, it was Papa, it was Caedrel, it was Defit. There is no incentive to be the best caster in the world. You're actually better off being the best GM in the world, the best president of operations, the best fucking core streamer, the best anything except fucking caster, it turns out, because Riot still treats these guys like old school Vince McMahon used to treat the wrestlers, where it's like, if he dies, he dies. Bring a new guy out. Like, they didn't give a fuck. They were making all the money. Like, I agree with you. It's the saddest thing, because the difference is there are other esports games where there are some very famous, iconic figures became bigger than the game, but they are, in a way, they deserved it, mate. They were like Caedrel now. They were carrying the game. Like, you know, back in the day, you can think whatever you like about the business practices of a Tasteless and Art Horses. Bro, they brought eyeballs. They were box office. There were people who wouldn't have watched that tournament who did because they were casting. That is what, when you capture those people, and the dumbest part, you're right, Monty, is they had it with you, with Papa. They especially had it with Caedrel. He even had the fan engagement in a way no one else did. You had that, and it could have been on your broadcast, and instead you let him be so big. You need him more than he needs you. You fucked up. You fucked up, Riot. You fucked
Good for him. I'm happy for him and his success, like, obviously, and all these people. But I mean, the fact is that casting has been like a dog shit profession in League of Legends from the very beginning, in terms of payment, in terms of career opportunities, and people found a way out. And like, if you're still doing this after 10 years, there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, guys. It's just the same shitty ass haul for another year. You would be better off doing almost anything else if you have any other skills, as Caedrel has shown. But it's like, why was it that Caedrel was uniquely capable of doing all this co-streaming and like building out his own brand? You guys literally just wasted a decade not doing that. It's wild. I mean, I don't personally like, you know, I like watching the main cast, and I find that the most enjoyable way frequently to watch it. But I also understand why people watch co-streams, because you get the main cast and you get something else on top of it.
Yes.
You get to also feel like you're supporting somebody individually, which just feels a lot better. You feels more connected than with a corporation. And it's true that traditional sports are getting into this. That's why we have the Manning cast now. It's not like traditional sports are being dumb and ignoring this. They understand the power of having these personalities as well. And it's going to be something that comes across more and more. Even on Twitch, the NFL was allowing people like Ninja to like co-stream the Amazon, the Thursday night football games that Amazon owned. So they clearly like see the value here.
By the way, quick sidebar. This is where, Monty, I know there's respect and there's legendary status and there's certain people you don't speak out against. But you know what, Monty? I wish I had the Kamala Harris style access to the earpiece of Peyton Manning when he was talking recently to Bill Belichick, because, bro, I could have given you the clapback of the century, my dude. Right? As a joke, because it was what Tom Brady and Belichick have always been triggered about, Manning was talking, and they were talking about Arrowhead Stadium where the Chiefs play, and Belichick made that joke where he goes, it's like back in the day when in the Colts, you guys used to pipe the crowd noise into the arena. And I would just go, well, Bill, I know you'd be against people cheating from the stands. Look up those first 3 rings. Look up what I'm talking about. The idea, you open up the idea someone else is cheating, Bill Belichick, and then nobody claps you back. Bro, you are the reason I think you're the GOAT is because you are the GOAT coach and you cheat. Of course you fucking win all the time. You're cheating and you're the best. Like, that's pretty OP. Spoiler, there's a reason why I allegedly maybe think Flusher cheated, because he was also really good and smart, and he allegedly cheated. So if he did it all at once, no wonder he was fucking unbeatable. No wonder he couldn't get this cunt in the clutch. That's another one. Demonetized. Money. It's all right. We made the money from the sponsors. That'll make up for the $200 money. It's all good. It all works out at the end. All offsets. It all offsets.
It sure does.
That's just in me. That's just in my DNA. You have to understand.
It's just the price of the word, man.
Yeah,
it's worth a lot to you, apparently.
It is.
It's very precious.
It is. So I'm like Gollum, mate. I won't give that fucking word up. Nah, precious. They try to take it from me. They try to scour the land for it. I'll never give it up. I'll dive into an active volcano to save the word. I won't say it again. I said it twice already. Sorry, I did it a minute later, so you know the conversation continued. So YouTube will flag it for you. Don't worry. It's all good. Anyway, to come back, I do think that is mental. But as we said, shout out to Caedrel. Even if there's things about his stream you don't like, he's killed it, and he's also proven what I've always thought the whole time, which is how my broadcast career worked. Entertainment trumps everything, and it's not even close. Literally, analysis is second by a million miles away, mate. Because remember, the worst thing about all the fakes on Reddit is you aren't qualified or capable of knowing if the analysis is good. You just wait until someone gets the status. Like, you know this, Monty. When LS wasn't popular, wasn't a core streamer, he was a moron to everyone. When he was the biggest core streamer, everything he said was right. Now, in the meantime, everyone didn't gain 20 years of fucking esports knowledge. They just
and LS didn't suddenly go from being all wrong to all right.
Exactly. It was just an appeal to authority. He just now has the status where you just assume he probably knows what he's talking about. So the problem is, like, half the analysis isn't even God tier. You don't even get that. Because I actually think people on core streams want entertainment. They want the sack. They want Caedrel jumping around talking about raps and shit like that. They want that.
I mean, objectively, Caedrel's analysis was better when he was on the broadcast.
I mean,
but his
now
entertainment might be better now.
He's biased, doesn't he? Or he plays up what teams he likes. Them. Yeah, he does a good job with it.
I mean, especially because you'll notice, guys, like last year with Weibo, he got mega lucky that they got into the finals, but he was just picking them because they were a degenerate chaos team with the Shy. And then it was just happenstance that they actually managed to make the finals. He's trying to do the same thing this year with Dplus, because Dplus is the clown is the clown fiesta team. But it makes it for entertaining content because he can give bigger reactions because these teams more frequently do crazy or stupid things, right? But that's why. That's why. I mean, he probably genuinely enjoys that gameplay as well because he finds it fun. But it's not coincidental that these Fiesta teams are being selected as his favorites for these tournaments.
Here's where we actually talk now about the good teams in League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
Do you know
That
what?
was the break.
Remember what my prediction was? I told you my prediction for Worlds is this. Everyone else is going BLG or, maybe Hanwha's going to do it because I'm worried about top. My prediction for Worlds is GenG wins Worlds in boring fashion because that's why they might end up being the greatest team of all time. And that's why Chovy probably will be the greatest player of all time because his game is boringly good, Monty. He's like someone you can't ever counter. He's someone who can just, it's up to him how he plays the game. By the way, I always told people this, and this is where everyone who remembers young Chovy was blind to his skill. Everyone told me that line, everyone can lane. Nobody can lane like this guy ever in the history of League of Legends. He literally, it's like he just automatically spawns in the game with an advantage just from killing the fucking minions from the PvE. He just has an advantage every fucking lane. Like, that is so OP if you are a player like him. That's why I knew, mate. It was actually the reason why towards the end of 2022, I knew, like, this guy probably really can be the GOAT, even though he hadn't won except, like, one LCK. It's because the second he cracked side laning and didn't just stay too long and get killed, it's over. If you can be a god in lane and then side lane, bro, it's up to you how the game ends now. It's your world and we just live in it, mate. So I think I'm still taking GenG to win the whole thing. So let's talk about their performance so far. What have you thought?
So people have definitely, I think, taken too hard of an approach on GenG. And also, I found it very, in the same way that I found people's response to the G2 Hanwha game weird, I found people's response to the GenG Hanwha series weird, in which they built this narrative where, like, this was a close series.
Yep.
Guys, it wasn't. Hanwha won game 1, but they literally had gotten picked off and were about to lose Soul, and then Delight and Zeka made a god tier hero play to save the game. Right?
One of the best rel engages you'll ever see.
Right. And also the follow-up from the Yone ult. And they gave Zeka Yone. Probably not going to happen again. But anyway, like, this was a scenario where GenG had completely controlled the early game. They had stacked up 3 Drakes. They had gotten a crucial pick in the mid lane. And they were about to leave mid lane to go take the 5 versus 4 Dragon Soul when Hanwha pulls off the miracle. All right? That wasn't Hanwha playing a great game of League of Legends. They were getting dominated by GenG. And I would also refer you to the finals. Again, Hanwha won the finals, and Hanwha won game 1 of that. Do you guys remember? GenG was winning that game until Pays fucking ran it down, and then Hanwha gave Hanwha an angle back in. And again, to Hanwha's credit, they made a great play. That might be the play of the tournament. It was so good. But they did get their shit stomped in the next 2 games as well. And I think the important thing to know about GenG is that you may not see the biggest gold leads, including times at like 25 to 30 minutes of the game, but GenG doesn't give you a room to play the game. They control vision so well and they control objective setups so well that they can be 2K goal ahead, but they are ahead of you in tempo. They are controlling everything that you're doing throughout the whole game. So the gold lead may not look huge, but the agency that they have, their opponents are always on the back foot at this tournament, right? And they're playing with vision in different ways. You'll remember they were the ones who started like the latest trend of Skarner jungle in LCK playoffs when very few other teams around the world were prioritizing it. Now here comes the Nocturne in this series. And the Nocturne, as we saw from later games that we're playing, is now picking up steam. But a lot of this is because look at the priority they're getting with it. Look at the way they're able to play around picks that are good. It makes Kalista playable in some of these team fights that she wouldn't otherwise be in because of her low range. She's going to get a lot more damage down, a lot more autos off if there's a Nocturne ult that prevents people from punishing her from getting that close, right? It allows you to play pick compositions. When you have the Aurora Nocturne combo, you can basically just box the enemy in. The Twitch pick was fucking brilliant in that 3rd game, and Pays played it super well. They realized, hey, we have Aurora, we have Nocturne. Let's just box them in, make them blind, and then here comes Pays with a massive flank doing immense damage to the enemy team. They played really well in the Hanwha series. They played really
I also thought there's an angle people missed in the draft. Bro, go back and look. Because they're playing some of the exact same champions topside all the games, what did they give away in the best of 3? Fuck all.
Yep.
By the way, other teams can't even play that comp, Monty. They can't even draft those champions. As you said, there's people can't even play Aurora in this tournament. Also, in those Twitch team fights, I just want to make this point though, because people are already doing the thing where they're acting like fucking Pays is like prime imp or something. You're doing the ruler JDG thing again. If you watch those team fights, right, if it was really just like Uzi I on Twitch and he's the only threat, you would just pop him the second you see him, right? All he'd go. The reason you couldn't, Monty, is because you had the demon fucking Ari game from fucking Chovy, and he was doing that night shit where, like, you can't, he will fuck your world up in that team fight if you go in. And he was playing some fucking, bro, he's the one, do you see where he stacked Medjai's on Ari and was just going into the team with the ult? Like, that is dope. Remember, they used to say as well, because he was a mage player, he's boring and a coward, bro. Something changed in Chovy this year. I remember the Yzir play in spring. His balls just fucking dropped or something, mate. He's fucking he's knows he's the
forward
man
a
now.
lot more than
Yeah,
he
he knows he's the dude. Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you look at his Smolder game versus Weibo, where he's flashing forward, you know, in that match. I mean, I was pissed at GenG because even in their first game, they looked fucking whack at the start of this tournament. They picked a composition that you would have thought would have come straight out of the summer playoffs and on a different patch. Yeah. Not only that, but they're doing things like letting Xiaohu have Lucian, the only champion he can fucking play this summer. Sure. Why are we doing these things? They still won. It was kind of an ugly game, but they managed to stack up Chovy. And I've seen interviews with Chovy saying where he doesn't even really want to play. He doesn't like playing Smolder, but he plays it because it gives his team the best chance of winning. And that's because, guys, he can dominate a lot of lane matchups with the range champion. And the thing is, past a certain point, it becomes very difficult to lose if you're playing Smolder if you have 500, 600 stacks and it's a 45-minute long game. Like, it becomes very hard to lose the game, especially if you're as good as team fighting and positioning as Chovy and the rest of GenG are. So I didn't like the first game that they played. I didn't even particularly like the second game that they played either. But by the time they ramped up and they played Hanwha, I thought the Hanwha series was surprisingly clean. I really don't think you can criticize them for game number one. You could have said, well, why did they clump up so much while they were come on, guys. They thought they were just walking to Seoul because that was the next macro move to make.
That might be the best support in the world. Delight is fucking unbelievably good. He's actually overqualified to be on this team. Remember, they only kicked him because they needed the shot calling change. If Pino had stayed, they would have just kept Delight. He was fucking cracked, man. I mean, he's really good.
Hanwha also had a bigger budget than GenG did this year.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Yes, exactly.
So, you know, it was T1, then Hanwha, then GenG had the third largest budget. So Delight also probably just got paid more, if we're being honest. Like,
he deserves it. He's fucking been cracked the last few worlds, mate.
GenG, the players that GenG has are being paid under market value because they want to play together on this roster. Almost all these guys could probably make more money elsewhere. But they want to play on GenG and they want to play together as this team, so that's what they're doing. But yeah, I think GenG, they, as far as the meta goes, they went from feeling like they were a bit behind in their priorities in this meta to feeling like they really are setting the pace of this meta now, particularly with like Aurora and Nocturne, and you can see the power of these picks.
Don't anyone complain about those picks unless your team can play them. You know what? By the way, no one's banning them, Monty. They'll be there all day long. Go ahead, pick a couple. And let me see it, T1. Let me see you play that top side. I want to see Aurora Nocturne and fucking Ari Faker. Go on then, bro. Let's see that. Show me this mastery of the meta. Go on. Let me see. You won't ever do that. You won't ever do that.
I mean, I think T1, that's a composition that T1 might be able to play. Like, Owner is a legacy Nocturne player, and Zeus, I think, probably can play it. Faker has played a lot of Ari in his career, so it's probably one of the champions he's more comfortable with, but I would love to see it. Yes, that's true. But you know,
I agree. The way that comp was designed was genius. Like you could see they literally knew their win conditions from minute one.
Yeah, and Hanwha also, you know, they spent a lot of this best of three, like they were banning Ziggs in Nidalee, and you feel like, shit, we can't let Canyon have Nidalee. The Ziggs is, you know, we're on red side, or they banned it even on blue side, but it's like Pays is probably the best Ziggs player in the LCK. Viper's probably second best, but they didn't want to prioritize it. They want to prioritize Smolder. And we're going to give up the Aurora. We don't believe it's that strong. Well, it turns out with a very well-coordinated team, that Aurora ultimate really is very punishing. And she could do a lot of damage. So I was impressed, especially because GenG really wasn't running like a very tanky composition. right? They were just running tank supports for the most part. And in game 1 of this series, which they did lose, although arguably should not have lost, they had 0 tanks. So they are running pretty risky, like very execution heavy style compositions, but it's working for them.
Yeah, there you go. Boring, but yes, sometimes winners can just be boring and win, can't they? Can just do what they're supposed to do, just take care of business. I love it. Obviously, if Chovy was never going to win, this would be the way, right?
And honestly, I think the scary thing too is that Hanwha might be the second best team at this tournament at this point in time. And they are getting mopped by GenG around objectives. They are getting mopped by GenG when it comes to vision control. And if they're the second best team, who the fuck is going to stop GenG? Their setups are just too good, man. Their setups are just too clean. They are looking great. They are looking
That's why at the moment, the main problem in the tournament is actually the historical narrative that all the bozo casters have missed is LCK always does well in the group stage and the LPL needs one team to become a shining light in the playoffs. So let's see if that can happen, because that is playing out year after year after year. Notice how every single time, Monty, Chinese teams rock up at Worlds. Hey, because I live in a complete bubble called China, I think this is the meta of the game. And then it turns out it's not the meta of the game. Europe has a weird pick. LCK figures out its own angle. LCK always knows the safe picks, you notice. LCK floor is always crazy in the group stage. Everyone's up and down like this. But you know what? Actually, BLG, the favourite from China, might go out in the group stage. Well, fucking hell, when would that ever happen? The joke is, if we could go back... I already said this joke in the past. If we could actually go back in time, apologies, Daddy, it should always have been the Clay Love Award. Yeah. Yes. Eat that China talk 10 years ago from if I sent a T1000 with that information, it'd destroy your mind, wouldn't it? Should have been the Clay Love Award all along.
But yeah, I think you look at the teams right now. It's hard to believe that GenG is going to be stopped based on what we've seen so far. Somebody else is going to really have to step up or hope that GenG falters in some way. And they're just chilling now, man. They're just scrimming, waiting for their chance at the quarterfinals. Like it is a huge advantage to be one of the 3-0 teams, because everybody else has to play in the second stage of Swiss, unless you're eliminated, obviously. But everybody else who's going to be in quarterfinals has to play in the second round. You have to show a lot more games. You have to play in 2 or 3 best of 3s instead of just the 1. You don't get to, select your scrim opponents.
You do know that BLG is going to get out 3-2, and that's going to be BLG GenG quarterfinals. But listen, you know what, Monty? This is how jaded I am in League of Legends. Normally I'd get really animated and annoyed. I'll just take having another night versus
League of Legends fan.
I just need another night Chovy series, mate. So if it has to be in the quarters, I can't trust that they'll meet in the finals, bro. We can't make that bracket again. I'll just take it in quarters if so. Just give me the bracket and give Chovy the hardest bracket ever. Then when he wins it, what are you going to say now, motherfuckers? What? Listen, Faker just won one over fucking Weibo. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? He didn't win against DRX. Let's see Chovy win it against everyone. Let's do BLG into T1 semis, into Hanwha rematch in the final, and then they clap them there. That's it. There you go. I've also, noticed I've done about 5 different potential worlds that at the end, if someone clips it, if any of the 5 happen, I look like the prophet because no one will remember the context. That's how media works. We also doing the co-streaming
Make
shit.
all
yes,
the takes.
Exactly.
Every take.
Exactly.
That's why we have Hot Take Point Made, the new LOL show. Watch it. So you get all the hot takes, and it only matters if you hit on one.
Well, remember, Zabatine did. He picked Under Thieves not to get out of planes. The vision of the man. I love it. The joke being, if you want the obvious joke, listen, he's a friend of mine. Obviously, he would know a lot about which NA teams are doomed to fail. There you go. It's a freebie. It's a freebie for you.
Well, guys, we do have one more sponsor for today, and it's Manscaped. So if you want to look as clean, as squeaky clean as, of course, there's your scalp buffer. Very nice. If you want to look
I've got a full head of hair at 41, Monty. How do you think I keep it? Tell you what, take care of it. That's what. Stimulate that blood vessels and growth and shit,
If you want to look clean cut, well, that's an option for you, because Manscaped actually has a new product. So in addition to the scalp buffer, which is great for massaging your scalp while you're in the shower, or of course their lawnmower, which is very useful for shaving your nuts, to a very pleasing smoothness, and also very safe. And you can use it in the shower. I've used it quite frequently. It's very nice. But they also have, not only for your scalp and your head and your balls or any other body hair you might have, also your face. If you want to look clean, chiseled, your jaw to look as sharp as possible, you guys can check out the Chairman Pro electric foil shaver. It's brand new. And not only that, it has skin safe technology. It actually has multiple trimmers, foils on it, including a stubble trimmer. So if you want the stubble look,
perfect.
it'll just give you the stubble look at different heights as well. So you can go smooth. You can go for a little bit of a stubble. If you're more into that, got everything you guys need there. And you can get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code LFN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code LFN at manscaped.com. I've been really enjoying their products. Especially their trimmers work great, work in the shower super nicely, makes cleanup very, very easy. Look,
I'll admit, I appreciate that technology, that skin safe shit more than anything. Because here's the thing. Listen, there's many areas. Look, I'll go to war with fucking entire countries, corrupt regimes that kill people. I'll go to war with all these people. But here's the thing. I get really nervous when I'm putting a clipper on certain parts of my skin, Monty. And if I even hear that sound like, I'm like catching a hair, I fucking jump a mile. You know what I mean? Like, I do a scream as well. I don't give a fuck. I'll do that if I think it's going to nip my skin or something. So it's been good so far. It's treated me well. That also pairs, like you're saying, with the shaver. That pairs with anyone who's living the lifestyle where you're mewing, where you're trying to get that Giga Chad chin. You're trying to not look. You're trying to not look like a bloody TSM fan. Where when you turn this way, it's like your fucking chin goes inwards, like straight down. There's nothing there. You're trying to get that manly fucking that anchor exactly.
So good stuff.
Shout out to anyone who purchases it.
That's right. 20% off Manscaped with our code LFN. Thank you very much. Which other teams you want to talk about? We haven't actually talked about FlyQuest yet, which I think may
tried not to, because here's the problem.
I gotta do it, man. I gotta talk about the Darius. I can't be contained.
No, but here's the problem I can't handle. I can't handle there could be a world where they like last game draw like bloody some bullshit like Fnatic or TL, and then they get to win and do that NRG crowing shit like, we're gonna top 8 in Worlds. Oh, look at your bullshit draw. The draw's fucking cancer. The draw's actually unacceptably shit. It's fucking whack.
Look, I was riding high because, look, it was GAM in the first round. They had a cupcake of a draw, obviously, but they come in with the Scion. They play a lane swap extremely well. They play an incredibly clean game against GAM. I'm loving watching this. They literally die one time in the whole game, and it's Scion like getting dove where it doesn't fucking matter under tower in a lane swap where he's like literally intended to die and then TP back in. FlyQuest is a great game. Really, really good. And then we get to the Dplus Kia game, and all of the bad habits start leaking out. We get to see the Amumu again. Look, I don't, in theory, hate the Darius in this game. You're playing Darius into 4 melees. Like, that ain't bad. But it's a lane swap meta, and you're not running teleport. And also, Bwipo. Actually, to be fair to Bwipo, he did get an advantage, even though he blew summoners at level 1 because he delayed Vi so significantly in the jungle that I think it actually did lead to a pretty good game state for FlyQuest. But at a certain point, if you don't have TP and you don't have an absolutely enormous advantage and can force fights on objectives, you can't win the game. Like, you can't win the game. And the team fights, I think, were really sloppy from FlyQuest overall. Masu's been great, honestly. I think the real takeaway here is like Masu is a fucking good AD carry who might be able to like compete internationally with people because he's had some phenomenal games so far. But man, FlyQuest, how did we go from game number 1 in your excellent lane swap to whatever this fucking dog shit was in this game versus Dplus Kia, which, by the way, in my opinion, should be a winnable game for FlyQuest. It should be a winnable game.
Yeah, but you have to actually have human solo laners doing things with their hands to win that game, mate. So, look, Inspired was fucking just like, help. Like, there's nothing you can do with that one, mate. There's nothing you do. He's trapped. Elo held.
Like, and I liked their draft that they had against PSG Talon too. We got to see Quad, who's a Cassiopeia specialist, pull that at a game where it really made sense, where you're having, the Ahri and you got the Cassiopeia and Ahri, they're trying to play into you, which gives you value to your ultimate. Masu has another pop-off game. Inspired plays super well in that game on the Ivern. Bwipo has some moments, both good and bad. I think some of his aggressive flashing is actually really good because he helps his team engage pretty significantly. So there were some things to like, I think, about the FlyQuest games, but they have had such an easy road. They played fucking PSG Talon. They almost lost that game. They played GAM and won cleanly, and then they played kind of a disastrous game against Dplus Kia that should have also won. I would have rated them better. I thought they would beat Dplus Kia. I thought they would, because I think Dplus is garbage. So
here's what's funny though, Monty. Shout out that they actually put the footage out of FlyQuest. You know how when Dplus drew that one and they're all like, yeah, like they'd fucking won Worlds or the war was over or something. They're all high five. Did you see the reaction of FlyQuest to drawing Hanwha Life?
No, I didn't see that.
Inspired literally just instantly goes oh no, we can't win. What the hell? We're gonna have to cheese, bro. We're gonna have to cheese. It's Viper and he goes, it's Viper and Zeka, 2 world champions. Even he knows because he's smart. Yes, he understands the Game Boy. He's not delusional. He knows that probably gonna get body slapped right now. It's gonna be a 2-2 match. And I'll tell you what, imagine if they get BLG in the 2-2 or something. Exactly. So, bro, I think this is a very... You know what? I'm just going to say, I don't think they can win this series. It's impossible. I'm going to say it's actually impossible. I don't think... I can't conceive of any... Me and Dr. Strange went through every possible timeline. There is none in which this ever happens that they win this match, mate. It doesn't ever happen. Right? One, Delight is playing against nobody. Then you've got Viper is just better than Masu, no matter what you're telling me right now. You know what? Fucking Quad, he's not... He's a canny player, but Zeka's pretty good at the moment. He's kind of on his game. Across the board, they're gapped, mate. They're just gapped all over the place.
The problem for FlyQuest is that their only good draw in this situation was probably Dplus, and they already lost to Dplus. They had their shot and they couldn't beat them. So, I mean, sure, they could have played Hanwha or Top or T1 or G2. They lose all those guys. They lose all those. So the Dplus was the hope, but they already had that shot and they lost it. So, I mean, they're going to go to 2-2. They're lucky to be 2-1 right now. Based on the draws. So I don't know, FlyQuest, I don't think they're going to be throwing hands.
They deserve it. That's balance. That's balance for the bullshit draw before where they got to believe this is good. Because by the way, the worst part of that is as you said, they could have even potentially won that D+ game, which is luckily, obviously they would have had only good teams in the 2-0 match, but even so, it's still a travesty that you would have been 2-0 up. What even is that shit?
It also just felt like they were drafting as though they didn't believe they could just play a standard game against Dplus and win, which I believe they can. But again, it comes back to, can they play Yone effectively? Can they play actually Aurora effectively? And when it comes to Hanwha, I don't think they can throw hands against Hanwha. And I say that because I had to watch that video of Inspired attempting to box, and I can tell you that man cannot box. So there will be no hand throwing. It'll look like Inspired's boxing in this game.
I mean, I expect it. It's just over, boys. It's over. First of all, how's Inspired going to do? Oh, you know what I'm like? He sometimes looks like an LCK jungler. Checks notes. The greatest jungler ever from the LCK, winning LCK, is Peanut. All right, well, cool. He's playing that game. Bro, they're just gapped across the board. There's nothing you do. About the best you can hope for really is, and my God, if we come to this, if we're asking Loki for help, we must be desperate. You have to hope Bwipo pulls some bullshit shenanigans against Thorin.
We're back on the Urgot, boys.
I can't. I just can't, mate. I can't.
Is there a market that I can bet on as to whether Bwipo plays Urgot in this series? Because I bet
That'll
he
be
will.
a good one.
I bet he'll
do some bullshit like that, mate. That's one thing I've also always loved about Bwipo. He not only plays in such a mad clown-ass way in the actual games, but somehow he'll join an LS call. They'll have this great draft discussion. And then he goes into draft, and he's one of the most criminal pickers of all time. This motherfucker loves to pick shit that's not even in the meta. It's not even actually good. Listen, miss me that he beat fucking TL with Urgot. I don't care. It's not happening now. It's not. So there you go. Mark it down. If they win, I said it's impossible. It can't possibly happen. If they do put it, by the way, my cultural impact will be crazy. I'll just be in all the videos. I'll be top of Reddit. It'll be like, Dortmund. Then I'll just know, yes, exactly. There's the question. Why are you all obsessed with what a 41-year-old man thinks? See, I used to 41-year-old thing myself there. Why are you obsessed with what a 41-year-old... You know what? Sounds a bit sus, Zoomers. Sounds a bit weird. That's weird.
It's kind of cringe.
Yeah, exactly. What the fuck, man? Why you just pay attention to people your own age? Fucking hell, it's all crusty and old. You're just obsessed with him. Bro, what even is this? Yeah, that's right. Mean Girls was from our generation, motherfucker. We invented that shit. We didn't really. That's just some shit made ages ago, but we can do that shit better than you. You'll never, your Mean Girls movie won't even be like that, because it'll be like Zendaya, that girl with the massive wide head out of fucking Little Mermaid, probably just a man at that point in time as one of the four characters. And then the fourth character, I don't know, just be Chinese or something, to check all the boxes. Like, your Mean Girls will be shit. Your Netflix Mean Girls sucks. There you go. And it'd probably be considered problematic to call it Mean Girls, just mean people. There you go. Mean persons. There you go.
That's too funny. All right. Other teams you want to discuss here? LNG
Obviously,
getting out
instead of fetch. Monty's trying to make the Dade Award a thing, but then we keep failing because people keep telling us every year just whoever plays badly. Who did he say next?
LNG making it out.
Yes,
kind of a surprise.
No, by the way, the joke is everyone's done the memes already. Now you see why Gala was willing to pay all that money to get fucking Scout to Worlds. Like, bruh. Imagine if this was your cow. It'd just be such a waste of the whole year, wouldn't it? They were basically just like, you know what? Actually, my career does sort of ride on this one. So yeah, I'll take all my money. Please come, Scout. Please, Scout. You're our only hope. Like, it's fucking guy is just cracked, though, isn't he? Because that's the problem. You know what's weird, Monty? Because of his personality, because he's not like super gregarious. I always feel like people just assume Scout's a boring player who only plays mages. Mate, he's just a really skilled player.
His Yone was very good in LPL playoffs.
He plays a bit more sort of like macro style. Like, he's not an idiot, but he's not someone who has like no balls or whatever. This guy's a fucking top player. That's why the saddest thing is he's going to have, this is why this world is perfect for it. He's just still living down that fucking series against SKT last year where people just didn't really do anything. He looked a bit scared, but the guy's actually a fucking very skilled player. No, that's why I always say I always want him back in the LCK. He's my dream person to come to the LCK.
Yeah, and LNG was kind of a mystery because we just didn't know what level of practice they were getting with Scout or how they would be doing with this roster, but the meta seems to be very favorable for them. Also, Zika has been showing up in a very big way. It has to be said, though, that they probably should have lost the game to Team Liquid, and they were definitely underdogs in the match versus BLG, and then they drew Dplus. I think LNG loses to Hanwha or to GenG if they actually draw either of those teams instead. So let's not confuse the fact that LNG did in fact get very lucky in their draws and then had also got a very legitimate and important win against BLG. But they have been outperforming, the teams that they've been up against. Scout has been but Scout got Yone on blue side versus BLG, which I think was probably a big mistake. The meta has been really good for Gala. He was always a great Ziggs player. Ziggs still in this meta. Guess what? Kai'Sa's back, and he looks fucking amazing on Kai'Sa. He played super well in those two games against Dplus Kia. So we get to see maybe the best Kai'Sa player of all time back on that champion. I also really like some of the adjustments they made. Now, Dplus's drafting was complete dog shit in game 2 of their series, where they're picking Ahri and Ziggs and no other sources of damage. And so Scout just slams the R5 Galio, which has immense value, and then they just build a bunch of MR and dominate them. So, I mean, LNG really had a savvy draft, and they had the answers there. But also Dplus was attempting to run a composition that just wasn't going to cut it in the mid and late game. So LNG did really well. I'm excited about this team because LNG was my favorite team last year when they had the more macro style. I think Zika is just the Chinese version of Keen, which I really appreciate in that he just does his job, whatever it is. And he maybe wasn't great all this year, but he's been looking really good so far at Worlds.
Oh, I think they look mega, mate. Like, I agree with you. Obviously, like BLG, that win hasn't looked as good because BLG looks kind of a bit up and down and they're not the same dominant team. But listen, you still beat 2 Asian teams to get out the group. Like, that's good. Yeah, the Liquid draw was slightly lucky, but it's not the end of the world. So obviously for them, quarterfinals is where they're going to prove if they're good. If they have a really exciting quarterfinals, what a banger that'll be. There's another team suddenly we didn't think would be a contender, could be in the mix. That'll be fucking dope. And by the way, another detail, people always forget to track this. I actually think the Riot broadcast is shit, Monty. They don't even know the basics of sports or esports or fucking wrestling. You know, one thing you track, people who are world champions. Scout is a motherfucking world champion. You are supposed to mention that as many times as possible and do things like features where you show how many world champions come to. You know, every TI, Monty, there's a famous concept. Because it took years until someone won 2 TIs, they would track which former TI winners are in this win with TI main event. They can't even figure out the most basic story. The worst thing is, Riot doesn't just think it invented esports. They think they're inventing it now. That's the worst part. They think now that they're inventing it. Like, they don't understand there was like 20 plus years. Like, they don't get the most basic concepts.
That's all right, Thorin. Surely when Hanwha versus LNG happens, we will have the Viper versus Scout narrative, right? Sure, we're going to have that, right?
Like, think about this. Scout world champion, Gala, MSI champion. These guys get mentioned less than like FlyQuest fucking players. What are we doing? What is this? I'll remind you for the millionth time, this is not the Western broadcast. It is the English language global broadcast. Do you understand the difference? Because I keep thinking I'm watching the Western broadcast. I even see those casters, look, fair play. Bias is a thing casters do. Casters are so horny to be in on that whole fucking core streamer vibe, Monty. They just now tweet like, oh, we got a good draw. Like, what are you saying? My dude, what are you saying? What do you mean we? Little bro thinks he's on the team. Like, Caedrel, you ain't, and fucking Vedius, you ain't on G2, mate. Like, they're just a team in your region. You're supposed to actually also think GenG are dope. Okay, as hell, you're not on Team Liquid, mate. You're supposed to also think that, like, fucking, it's awesome that BLG's at the tournament. You know what I mean? What are you doing?
I was doing my VOD review today of Team Liquid versus Pain Gaming. And Captain Flowers, who I think is a very good caster, was shouting like it was the fucking world finals when Team Liquid was winning. I'm like, should we save some of this? This is literally the lowest match possible of the main event.
How's a casual supposed to know the difference between GenG T1 in the final, joke one, versus this match? They can't. They don't know the stakes, do they? They don't know the stakes, mate.
It was crazy how hard they were going in terms of the hype in this completely meaningless game. Meanwhile, we can't get any LPL casters at Worlds to hype up their team. And onto your narrative about former world champions. Dplus versus LNG is literally a head-to-head mid-lane match of former world champions. I didn't hear anything about that.
No, that was dick. Wasn't even a mini like segment, nothing. That's, by the way, think about that. If you think about the eras they were winning in, Monty. One, that was literally a rematch of the world's finals mid-lane matchup in 2021. And in 2021, Scout was the champion of the LPL and Showmaker was the champion of the LCK. How easy are these narratives, bro? I'm talking about the most low-hanging narratives ever.
It was also only 3 years ago.
Yeah, and your narratives are just some other bollocks that are just fucking nothing to do with it. Like, these are the most easy narratives of all time. Come on, you've even got the footage, for fuck's sake. It exists. It's in the banks. It happened. I'm telling you for real. Look, I will say, and this is aged very well, Monty. I always am going to brag about this because only me and Jensen Go said it. When the quarters was set for Worlds 2021 and everyone else was glazing the Korean side of the bracket and damn one, I did a video, look it up on my YouTube, where I said EDG would win Worlds, and they did. That happened. That's a fact. That's a case. None of you have your video. You don't have a tweet. I did a video. Go look it up on my channel. It happened. Now, look, I got a million other predictions wrong. Don't even worry about that. And I definitely bet on underdogs. That's true. That's why I actually win in the long run, mathematically. So, end of that story. I did brag. Humble brag. I won. Me and Scout. We won Worlds, Monty. We won Worlds that year. Me and Scout.
Nobody thought Scout was going to win that year. Either. The only prediction I saw was Jensen Go, who like was very convinced that EG was going to win, and everyone else was just like, well, looks like it's Dom 1 3-0. Then we got the horrible Trundle game.
It's the joke. What happened was, because they'd already won Worlds, Canyon and Showmaker were ready to become a dynasty. They were going to win all the LCKs. They wanted to just win another Worlds. Then they could go head to head with fucking Faker and T1 and say, hey, that was the old days of League when it wasn't that competitive. We're winning the Euro and the LPLs here. So what happened was Canyon knew there's a lot of luck involved to winning though. Even Faker had to get lucky sometimes. Even some of those players had to get lucky. So he knew you have to bend the hand of chance in your favor. So he went. You won't believe it, Monty. Classic mistake. He went to that bloody bazaar in the Middle East again that just shows up every now and then. Conveniently, when Thorin wants to make a fucking shit joke that he makes narratively. And you won't believe what he went and bought from the fucking seller, Monty.
Not a monkey's paw.
No, it's back again. And you know what? They never learn, do they, Monty? They always go. But here's the thing. He always warns you, the merchant. He always goes, look, I'll tell you this thing. It grants wishes. And then you just grab it. You go, thanks, yoink. And you run. And as you run away, you just faintly hear the... But the problem is, it only grants exactly what you say. But be careful what you say. And he didn't... who's gone already, on his magic carpet back to Seoul. And then when he got back there, he made one wish. He said, at the end of this finals, I just want to hear the casters shout GG. And the problem was he mispronounced it because he's Korean. They can't really say the letters quite the same as the West. And he actually said it JJ. And when he said that, the whole thing was over. At the end of game 5, that's what they were all shouting. So I came up with that on the fly, LCS casters. I was already better than your entire narrative building and your whole segments. That was on the fly, motherfucker. And it was a callback to about a million other jokes and someone internet for like 10 years. It's the way we actually have gone so long at this point in time. We should have an actual 10-year history of fucking memes and gags and jokes and shit like that. It's mental, innit? It's so absurd. So absurd.
Meme
this
gumbo,
is supposed to be a fuck around podcast. Remember, this is supposed to be a podcast where half the premises, it's the No Travis's Club. So it's supposed to be a 10-year podcast. Like, it's still going.
It's probably more than half of the purpose.
True. That and then to also destroy TSM. And you know what? All I'm going to say is, did it work or did it work?
We outlasted TSM.
Exactly.
Not. By the way, guys, not only did we outlast TSM in terms of we are still running and TSM stopped. Now, because of the number of years since TSM has left, we've actually outlasted TSM as an entire history of League of Legends.
Monty, you know why I mock all these people with the monkey's paw? I was the one who made the first mistake with it because I thought, fuck TSM. They're always so good in NA. At worst, they're going to be second or third best, and they'll always be at Worlds. So you know what? All I want to see, got the monkey's paw. I just want to see TSM destroyed in League of Legends. And even I didn't make it specific enough. Now they just don't exist in League of Legends anymore. Oh, bloody hell. I wanted them to still be around. I still want to dunk on them. I still need them to make Worlds and go 0-6. I didn't want them to actually just be destroyed from existence.
It was great engagement for us.
This is like in Watchmen where fucking Dr. Manhattan gets really angry in that TV studio and he goes like, I wish everyone would just shut up. And then basically like all of a sudden everyone just gets teleported outside the studio and he's like, what the fuck? I didn't mean that. It's like, so I was the original victim of the monkey's paw. There you go. And also, there was the other time I did use it, I did say, Monty, for once in my career, I just want to see Flame win a national tournament. WCG 2013. That's an old school joke for anyone.
He did beat the Chinese super team, though. That was assembled against him.
Sadly, no one gives a fuck about that tournament, bro. It doesn't mean anything. I can't even pretend that I give a fuck about that. No one cares about that, mate. No one does.
All right. Any other teams you want to hit on the way out?
Well, the obvious one we haven't talked about at all is just top esports, isn't it? We're just fucking avoiding them entirely.
We haven't talked about Weibo either, but Weibo kind of sucks.
Look at top esports draw, by the way. That's some nightmare fuel also.
Yep. At least they got Dplus now, which they should actually win.
Where the fuck's their GAM? Where's their GAM draw?
Their GAM, it wasn't their GAM Fnatic all along.
In a way. I told you though, Monty, because it was 4.0 odds, I bet Fnatic in that one. Then I saw the draft and they just gave Cream the fucking Yone.
I gotta talk about Fnatic here. So
they gave Hawk, like driving off. I can't even handle it now.
They gave him Yone, and then they picked Smolder. And then my favorite part was that they just take every single team fight against top esports with just like a Smolder with a Shojin and a not stacked.
Listen, what I would never want to do if I had the Smolder is just like side lane the fuck out the game and get it super powerful and then make that ult just impossible to play with. I'd want to fight early and often, like betting, like voting, just early and often.
And not only that, Thorin, we have to do it with a composition that has no other damage because we don't have AP, right? We drafted Cassante and Skarner in top and jungle, and then we just have a Jhin for setup. So let's pretend the entire composition is just about getting super tanky and getting this Smolder super farmed, and then let's just run it down every single team fight in the early game so that we never even get. Humanoid actually did hilariously get his stacks. Like he died, he got his stacks, died, and then as they were pushing the final Nexus was like hitting his Qs and not killing anybody. I mean, this was really just a disaster from Fnatic. And then Jun is like complaining after the game in interviews about the changing the pick ban and like letting the Yone through. And then he's saying, I shouldn't have said that earlier. He's retracting his own statements. I mean, the whole thing is just a shit show.
By the way, I love that as well. The way he comes out like, I apologize for the statements I have made against the party and against our dear leader. I was incorrect in my things. I have betrayed myself and my country. You know,
I think all our opponents should have Yone in the future.
I know. By the way, John, I'm sorry. You were right.
I'm
fucking what's that? Darth Vader at the end of fucking Return of the Jedi. You were right, John. You were right. You already saved the draft. You already did, mate. It's over. Also, by the way, I just said it on Twitter. I suspect someone knows it's his last year anyway. And he's going back to Korea after this, mate. I don't think he's staying in the team. I think that's over. And spoiler, Noah, mate, get the fuck out. I'm telling you. I'm not even hating on you. Just leave. Just go. Breon, do you want Joe? You probably don't actually. You probably got a better player. Get Noah the fuck out, mate. It's just not happening. And that whole, I'll tell you what has also died this year, Monty. Can we just hear the end of the whole, like, humanoid is really good internationally? Like, that's a 2-year-old narrative at this point in time. You know what I mean? He can also throw like a motherfucker. I'll tell you what people don't even give. You know what people say? Humanoids like caps. Yeah, in the era when he had all the claps games and craps games, like this guy has some criminal moves on the map where he'll just like face check a brush. Or just like walk into a team fight when he can fight from range. Like he can't, he's really, listen, I tell you what he clearly does have, Monty. He clearly has hands, but he has some fucking criminal games too. He has some criminal matches. Not impressed.
Yeah, I think, and you know, in retrospect, it makes his the contract that he has look absolutely egregious, because maybe you guys don't know this, but when Humanoid became a free agent, he was the hottest Western free agent that year. There were teams in NA trying to sign him. Everybody wanted Humanoid, and he ended up going to Fnatic and then signing this extended deal with them, probably for a fuck ton of money. And they just can't unload his contract. And because he signed in Europe, they also can't ditch his contract because of the German contract law. So they actually just can't afford to get rid of him because they'd be paying him to be on the bench, and then they'd have to pay somebody else.
I've got a secret I've never revealed before.
One
of the reasons why I, the whole time, said, after I saw the start of Humanoid and Fnatic, like, I just don't believe in him as a player. I don't think he'll ever be as great as he won't be a champion. One of the reasons why is because I heard from sources around him. I have my spies and my moles everywhere. You'll never find them. They're everyone. They're your neighbor. They're your postman. They're your fucking wife. They're everyone, bro. I've got them all. Like that one. Remember that God tier one I had of like fucking Wooloo, Monty, where it was a one where Wooloo and the person replying both were like, but I didn't give him that screenshot. It's like, yeah, I'm in the walls, motherfucker. I'm watching you from the astral dimension, bitch. My spirit, my soul is over yours, just peering down at what you're saying in your chat. So anyway, here's what I heard about Humanoid. I heard that his one of his actual aspirations like that was to just go to NA and get a massive salary and not give a fuck. That's an aspiration. Just to get rich and not give a fuck. Well, as soon as I hear that, mate, I'm out. Because I want the guy. This is where people will never... What's weird is, because morons have no eye test, they actually don't think Upset is even skilled at League of Legends. Do you know that, by the way? They think he's like an inferior player, Monty. What they don't get is, you know what I fuck with so heavily? He has like a crazy drive to win. Like this guy, I know now because he's married, people say he won't do everything to win because obviously he did that thing where he came home from Worlds. But he has that like mentality where... It's just about trying to be the best you can possibly be in the game and be like the most elite player ever. That I fuck with heavy, even if you lose. If you're the guy where it's like, lol, I'm fucking around. It's like I said to Humanoid years ago, and this is aged so well. When he basically had some of those tournaments where he didn't do the playoff performance after he fucked around in Split, I just said, you ain't expect here, motherfucker. You ain't expect here. You need that written over the fucking like... In the same way as in football stadiums, you have like the club logo written as you walk in and you read the motto. His dressing room should always just say, you ain't expect here, motherfucker. You can't mess around and then turn it on and clap the best Asians. You've done it like 1 out of every 4 games in your life. Like, and at this point in time, it's 1 out of 5. Like, it's just gone away. And also, here's why it's changed. Because he can have like the first half of a clap game and then the second half of a crap game, or vice versa in the analogy of the game you were talking about. Like, he'll just also throw the game right back again. That's the problem. Where's the closeout when you have the carry game? You know what I mean? That's what the genius Western players did. Perks didn't like start LeBlanc smurfing on RNG, then throw the game at the end and go, lol, don't give a fuck about NA, lol. He did go to NA, but not for that reason. Years later, when he'd already won everything, you moron. So win some, then go to NA. And also, spoiler, except for Jojo, and even he doesn't get that money anymore. There isn't any money in NA anymore. Bro, they're bringing bloody, like, Mexico and fucking Brazil into their league. There's no money left anymore. It's over for you. You can, here's what, I'll tell you what, you know what, Humanoid? You can go and be a millionaire if you want to play in the Americas, in pesos. There you go, in pesos. That's the joke. In reals and pesos, you can be a millionaire anytime you feel like it, bro.
But this whole situation with Humanoid where, you know, again, he didn't play well in the Dplus game. I don't know who the calls were. I don't know if it was necessarily his fault in the Smolder game that he played. But whoever was making those calls is lost in the sauce, man. Like you just can't play like that. They lost in 24 minutes in such an embarrassing fashion. I mean, this team is trash. Like I need this team to be fucking destroyed at the end of this year. Like this Fnatic cannot continue to be allowed. Like they cannot continue to exist. Like, for example, also Oscarinen, buddy, how many lane swaps do we have to play before you fucking learn how to do lane swaps?
He'll never learn.
How many?
Sad, innit?
It's terrible. You can't just start your game in a hole.
I'm already scared, Monty, that they end up playing fucking GAM and they just do a lane swap against them. I'm so scared. That's because it's all that fun and games when NA's getting banged out by GAM. Listen, Mad Lions, I don't even count them as really a U team. I can't have Fnatic. They're supposed to actually be good. We're actually supposed to be proud of them. I can't have them getting lane swapped on and shit on, but sadly it'll happen. So there's that.
I mean, the crazy thing is like that best of 3 with Weibo is likely to be a fiesta, because it's not like Weibo has been particularly impressive either. Like Breathe has been really underwhelming. Crisp has been very uneven. Zhao Hu has been not great outside of the Lucian games again. Tarzan's been actually kind of worse as well. So Weibo has been, I think, pretty significantly underperformed. They should have, again, that's another game where I think TL absolutely should have beaten them. And so Weibo should have been in that like 0-2 match, but you know, G2 took him out at least. Maybe it'll give Fnatic some level of hope, but these are not good teams that are going to be meeting down there.
Also, to me, the key thing is you have got to get these upsets now and to get these Asian teams out in the best of 3s, because I expect any LPL team that goes to the playoffs to have a way better chance in best of 5. Like they can come alive. And so also, Monty, those like few days break, they're everything. Because you know how it goes. If you're Weibo, you look like shit now, but then what happens is you get on the opposite side of the bracket, you get to practice GenG. Bro, you just practicing GenG for 3 days. All of a sudden, you come to playoffs, it's fixed. Now you can play the game. Whereas if you get them now, like they'll be out now, G2, then you can do something, mate. Then you can go for a run.
The start of Worlds is also weird, especially as I've said previously, when Worlds is hosted in North America or Europe, because the Asian teams do not come early. Whereas when Worlds is in Asia, all the Western teams go to Asia and practice for 3 weeks beforehand. So because the good Asian teams had stayed in Asia and all the Western teams were just in Europe, there wasn't a time prior to this to really discover the meta together. So what happens is you have these fragmented metas that end up existing, and it takes a while for it to like sort itself out. And I think we'll see a lot. We'll see it kind of sort itself out in the second half of the Swiss stage, but especially by the bracket stage, that's when teams, typically come alive, because it's a lot of games really quickly and they're best of ones, and everybody has a different idea of what the priorities are. I think it's pretty clear to most teams at this point that Yone and Aurora are very good, and these are champions that should be played. Now, whether they can play them or not at an effective level, we'll see in the second round robin. But some of these games where like Fnatic's just giving cream Yone, which I just don't understand what universe you do that in. It's fucking cream.
That's mental. That's literally the dream fucking pick for him. It's insane. Why would you do it? I know
he was playing it. He was playing it before it was this broken. And he was winning all his games on it.
Even if they nerf it, he'll be the guy who keeps playing it for 2 weeks after the nerf. He'll be that guy, of course. Yes, of course. Love it.
Yeah. So top esports. Look, they've had a tough run. I think that's fair to say. Like their first 2 matches against T1 and GenG, really rough. They should absolutely dumpster Dplus. They should absolutely dumpster Dplus. Cream is built for this meta. 369 has not been great at this event, I have to say.
Been a bit sauce, honey.
Maybe he's up for a Dade Award. He's probably in there.
I have to say, he's had some underwhelming at national tournaments, hasn't he? Considering he's always held in such high regard because his talent levels are unbelievable. Yeah, but this has been bad so far, mate.
I will say Tien has been really good, especially in the win versus T1. He was amazing.
After Clearlove, he's got the second most Dade awards. So he's already like, look, I'm good with that. Listen, I've already got my championships. Other people can win them now. I'm going to play normal.
His Dade championships.
Yeah, he's already got them. It's already got him.
So I think Tian has definitely been one of the better performers. For top esports, 369 has been a little bit shaky. GenG ended up taking out top, but Pays, I think you could actually make an argument that Pays has been the best performer on GenG at Worlds in Swiss. He's been extremely consistent and has carried a lot of these games, particularly the top esports game he was pretty spectacular in. And Keen was struggling in that game. Canyon also has been over committing to objectives at time, and has been punished by Tian. So I don't know, like top esports, I still rate them as a contender for this title.
Yeah,
I think like the meta is really good for them. Mako, despite having a rough playoffs, was really good for a lot of summer, and we know, given his veteran status, is multiple excellent performances that he can still pull it out. Cream, I think crucially, Cream looked like he had the jitters when he was at MSI, but by the time Esports World Cup rolled around, he looked much more like the player we see him domestically, and I think we're seeing that here again. I think it was just that first international tournament at MSI where he was a bit shaky, and then, they obviously beat GenG at Esports World Cup, read into that what you will, and went all the way to the finals before losing to T1. So this is a roster that now has a lot of international experience together. Cream isn't playing like he's scared any longer. Tian has been performing, and I believe that 369 and Mako can turn it around. So
to me, the biggest thing for this tournament is if that bot lane properly comes online, they can beat, in theory, any team.
Well, especially because
got the Dplus to do it.
Tian might be the best jungler world so far. I think you could make that.
He's
argument.
done very well, yeah.
So he's certainly been better than Canyon. And like, who else would you even put in that conversation? I think he actually, now that I say it, I think he clearly has been the best overall. He's been incredibly consistent. So Tian's having a heck of a tournament so far. They have had hard opponents, but they're still 2-1, right? After all of that, they beat T1, and now they got the best possible draw besides FlyQuest, I guess. But this should be a 2-0 over Dplus. Like they are a much better team.
Yes.
Just unfortunate they hit GenG because Swiss seeding is shit.
They also better not go 2-2, because if they get BLG, this is the most absurd fucking draw of teams of all time. It's just unfair as fuck. And they even beat T1. It's just absurd, isn't it? It's so unfair, this draw they've got made. Theirs versus the FlyQuest ones. Like, go fuck yourself, right? Go fuck.
FlyQuest is outrageous. I mean, the run they've had. I mean, even Fnatic's run, especially because Dplus is a beatable team, and then they have GAM is pretty bad. G2 has gotten a much harder draw. It's funny the fact that they got Pain first and won their game. The HLE draw was a little rough for them. So anyway, yeah, I think that about does it. We've gotten to all the teams, I believe, except for Pain Gaming, which we're not going to talk about.
By the way, within the context of what they are, they obviously try really hard, and they've got a bit of spunk and a bit of fight in them. They're just objectively, in all senses, a bad team. Like, they're just bad. They're fucking bad. I don't care that Peter Dunn, who, guys, I'll just reiterate for the millionth time, worked in fucking CB LOL. Yeah, Peter Dunn thinks they like have some quality. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's what I love about Peter Dunn. He has so much love in his heart and such a fucking vision for what the world could be that he believes in Pain Gaming. I don't. As I say, they're just going to be ass Pain Gaming. There you go. That's all they're going to be.
Love it. All right. So want to do some viewer questions?
Yeah, for once.
All right. We'll take a few viewer questions because we're already running a bit long. So we'll do them for a bit. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back.
Right, this will be the final segment of the show, which is titled Viewer Questions. And those are questions submitted by viewers who are subscribers to our Discord, the Last Free Nation Discord. If you subscribe, you will gain perks, such as the ability to access the channel and submit a question.
There you go. So first question, Thorin, is the R7 over 100 Thieves at 5.8 odds the best bet you've won? Monty, what is the best odds bet you've won? Ooh, I've run some parlays that are like 13-1. But in terms of individual games, like 5.8 is probably hard to beat.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, I'm not even sure my KT to beat GenG one was that crazy. That might have been like 4 points.
Or
I'm
like
not
the
sure.
KT to beat T1 last year.
I might be the best. Yeah, that might. Like, I feel like I feel like I might have once done like an 8-1 odds, but I think that was where I just did like a 50 or some tiny little. Maybe the DRX to win worlds. I got them from the semis for like 10-1. I think there was one I did, but I did a baby bet. I didn't do a proper size bet one on that one. Just some nonsense one, you know.
I've definitely had some really stupid parlays that had bigger ones, but yeah.
Sure.
Is there a world where Swiss is actually a good format? Obviously, I think you need some form of seeding. Well, the theory probably is that new world's power rankings thing is going to provide seeding, not this year, but as they fine tune it, perhaps. I still think my suggestion last year of 4 or 5 team groups playing single round robin best of 3s and getting rid of play-ins would be a great format. Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
round robin. I hate round robin, mate.
Well, I just want double. We just do GSL groups. Like, we just don't have to do this.
Another fact that people are missing.
They use GSL groups and play-ins. Just do play-ins, but with 4 groups.
The reason why you can make Swiss better, and it doesn't matter even some of the seeding, is because since the Asian teams are fundamentally better, you are aware you can just do best of 3 the whole way. There's no rule saying you have to do BO1. We've done loads of tournaments in Counter-Strike that BO. If you had BO3s, well then good luck, FlyQuest. Get all the draws you want, mate. Like, you're going to get banged out in the fucking eventually anyway. So to me, half of what makes the upset is that it's a BO1. It's just the most nonsense format ever.
Right, and they have 8 different BO1s.
I think BO1s have no place in League of Legends. I think they're the worst possible format. Especially because I'll point out for a millionth time, in a game of Counter-Strike, there are resets within one map. I don't even want BO1s in Counter-Strike, but at least in Counter-Strike, you can snowball in fucking League. So that basically means if you have a good 8 minutes, you can win a game. What is that? What is that shit? That's nonsense. So I think it just ruins the game, unfortunately.
Yes. I think it's just really problematic. And also, the only region that now runs any form of best of ones is LEC, and they only do that for the minority of every split. So the majority of games are still best of 3 or best of 5 games. So what I don't understand is like why we're still running this format at Worlds. And it's not like there's a time crunch, guys. In the last 2 weeks of competition, there's literally 3 best of 5s. We have plenty of time. Like, we don't have to finish Swiss in 10 days or whatever it is. We can have Swiss be 3 weeks. This is all Riot's shit-ass design that led us here. And so, no, I don't think there's a world where Swiss is a good format. Maybe if you use the new power rankings to determine seeding, maybe if you removed NA and EU number 1 seeds from Pool 1, like, these are things you could do, and added China and Korea number 2 seeds to Pool 1. There are things you could do. But I think that Riot is afraid of the PR of saying that the best teams in NA in Europe are not Pool 1 teams. And so I think they're dodging that by using the power rankings in the future. Because then it's just a hard, like, whatever your ranking is.
Oh, no, that'll work. I'll tell you why, Monty. Because in League of Legends, in Counter-Strike, where they do the HLTV ranking, they actually acted, people for really would say, Monty, yeah, but that's subjective, Thorin, whereas your rankings, which I invented before theirs, yours are subjective. And I just want to go, who do you think inputted the fucking factors to the formula of that? A human, you fucking dunce. You don't even know what the factors are. So I believe it will work. When humans think that a computer decided who was the best, Monty, they'll be fine with it. They'll accept it. They just will eventually. But bizarrely, they won't let an actual human expert decide who's good out of these teams. You know, the ones who watch the game. So, well, we'll just have to have what we have. There's no flashpoint for League.
Is Zabutin constantly coming up with the hottest takes while being unable to identify them, already poised to become one of the great running gags of modern entertainment?
Yeah.
Explain this to people.
It's quite similar to Cassad. What happens is they'll make like a take that's like a pretty good take, but not a crazy one. But then when you argue something else, they'll just throw something out where it's like, actually, I think that player's better than everyone in the whole world. You're like, whoa, that's the biggest take of the show. And they didn't even have that as their prep take, bro. That just came up for free, like by accident. So yeah, he's if you don't know, guys, I've pointed this out before. That's literally how I modeled the show. I'm playing the role of Thorin. Kire is Maui Snake and Zabutin is Cassad. So that's why I think the dynamic works.
That's very good. What is more entertaining to you, Nemesis career highlights or Marlon Brando eating a chicken? That's a reference to my discussion of Marlon Brando eating a chicken in a streetcar streetcar hit called Desire, named Desire. Marlon Brando eating a chicken. That is like low key an amazing scene.
One
And
of
I
them
hate
was a
watching
great man
Nemesis.
doing something. The other one was just some kid from fucking Slovakia and fucking not being a champion in league and playing Korean solo queue.
Chinese netizens call the EWC the Saudi Cup or Petro Cup.
Oh, love it. Love it.
My question
I love
is-
that harshness. Love
Yeah,
it.
my question is, which of the teams that you guys think actually have a chance to win Worlds may spawn the wildest / most interesting narrative if they actually win? The wildest narrative of a potential Worlds winner. Top esports probably. I mean, LNG is probably up there. LNG has to be the
Especially because
craziest
of the
narrative.
scout thing.
Yes.
He wasn't even supposed to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be pretty nuts, wouldn't it?
LNG
By
has
the
to
way,
be the wildest.
Here's what it has to be. If they actually win Worlds, the joke has to be LNG World Champions sponsored by Gala. That's the joke. Because it's just all him. Gala Money Box. He's the one who he came with the cash and he made it all happen. He made the dream. Another good one, if you're thinking of teams that it's plausible could win, would obviously be for the memes if Hanwha wins. Because, bro, you know what they're going to do? Are you ready? I know what fans are like. I know what liars are like, Monty. If Zika wins another Worlds, they're going to go and get all of our takes from 2022 and early 23 when he was shit. And they're going to run them back as if he was this good the whole time. And we're all just haters, you know. They're going to do that. In fact, you know what? Are you ready for the most cancer narrative of all time, Monty? If Zika wins this Worlds, they're going to say he is fuck faker. Zika's better than Chovy. That will be the take. That will be the new Bengi's the second best player of all time. It will be maybe Zika, second best mid laner of all time. Haha, rookie, you do not have 2 Worlds. I can't. So there's one. That's one that'll spawn some bad takes. That'll be pretty bad. There's not that many teams could win though, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
Dplus isn't winning, no chance. T1 probably isn't winning. Realistically, the only Worlds winners to me is GenG. Let's see if BLG gets the shit together. They have the players to do it. Hanwha, LNG, maybe top. They're my teams. I don't think anyone except those teams can win.
Who is your favorite current NFL broadcasting duo? Do you have a favorite?
The Manning brothers or whatever.
I like Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on Thursday Night Football. Even though those games are terrible, they're often more funny because Al Michaels he has a very dry sense of humor and he like starts talking shit more frequently, which I think is very funny. I like Chris Collinsworth a lot, so I also like him.
I've never understood why people hate on him. I find him mega iconic. He's just
I think he's great.
He's part of the furniture. Also, this is why, because he said duo, I didn't say this. My favorite commentator is Kevin Harlan, easily. I think he's fucking amazing. But
There you go.
Whatever. He just doesn't have the greatest duo, does he? It's just a whatever duo.
Create a roster for only one split of players in their rookie split, excluding Faker and Milky Way. So we have to pick a roster of rookie split players.
Okay.
So
Let me think.
this guy's offering like 2018. I mean, a lot of these guys have to be Griffin guys, right?
Well, I have some other angles. Other angles for you.
Knight,
Well,
2018.
He was pretty good. By the way, Knight was actually very good out the gate even. Here's my top lane one. It's a based one. You will know the reference. Other people won't. I have to pick someone in their rookie split who's really good. There's no the. Shy.
Yeah.
Shy was the shit when he came out the gate.
That's
he was
true.
Mega. He was really good. Here's an obvious one for you, just to be cheeky and cheat. Diamond Prox.
Sure.
See where I'm going here, Monty? See, you don't... Froggen. He's the best player in the world, bro. So far, I've got 2 Westerners in there, motherfucker. Bot lane, let me think for ADC. ADC's hard. Well, it's got to be Nami, hasn't it? He was the shittest devil. There you go. Oh, this is base, this roster.
Viper, too. Viper in 2018.
Viper's Viper's very good, too. By the way, Chovy was also dope in his opening split, too. So was Tarzan, as Monty says. Basically, the joke is it was that team. I thought the support was a little bit dodgy, and then the top lane was a bomb. Support, is this even real? Is this thing on? Mad Life? Mad Life, son? Mad Life? There you go. It's my roster, based as fuck. I noticed I basically made a season 2 roster, but sorry, don't worry about that. You just ignore that, guys. Ignore that I'm living in 2012. Don't worry about it.
To Thorin, how did you manage to get to know so much about so many sports? Is it just years of experience in following a bit of NFL, NBA, tennis, soccer, UFC, etc. on the side of esports? Or did you go through phases of deep dives into specific disciplines? You do have a method for this, I know.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm not an expert about a majority of the sports. Like, I don't actually know a lot of the specifics of the NFL rules. I probably couldn't tell you a lot of the defensive schemes they use in basketball. But what I've done is, one, I go super deep on great players and great teams. And so in doing that, you get to find out who their opponents were and who they overcame and what changed about the game and what their era was like. And then crucially, I also do a system a bit like you probably do with VODs, where you skip around in games and just watch the quality parts and watch the really important parts and replay the important aspects, etc. And then also, it's a philosophical question, because basically I subscribe to the philosophy of the swordsman and warrior poet Miyamoto Musashi, which is when you can see the way broadly, you will see it in all things. So what you find is the same exact core concepts of like how aggressive teams counter defensive teams, and how fucking like, but at the same time, defense is easier to pull off in the playoffs, whereas actually offensive brilliance is really hard when you're nervous. Concepts like fucking what styles counter what styles, how people compete in terms of psychological aspect. These things do carry over to a lot of different games in esports, I find. So I think what you'll find is you think Counter-Strike and League are totally different because you haven't gone deep enough on both. When you go deep enough on both, you will actually find a million things that connect and have similarities and comparisons. And if you notice, one of my biggest strengths ever in esports is I'm able to tell the dreaded thing that normally casters fuck up, which is I can tell you who the next Froggen is, because I know the archetype of who he is. And so, or the next Uzi Eye, etc. So if you know the archetypes of the players, you'll also be able to like very quickly categorize them and get a sense of what their career might be like. And I did do it for 20 plus years. There is the little part. I also put like a whole person's lifetime doing it. It's why the joke is, by the way, look, I don't care anymore, because at this point in time, the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Esports Awards is not being killed by them as a journalist. That's straight fire. Someone put that down there. How about just the Life Award? But the joke is, Monty, if people don't know, that was the ultimate fuck you to Thorin from the Esports Awards, is that their plan, now I'd be blacklisted, but their plan was to never give me a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm one of the only people who actually put my entire adult life into this industry and tried to be excellent for 20 plus years. So what they were doing there, and I was in those meetings where they were nominating women who began working in 2015. I knew that that's the way the industry gets to say fuck you to me. It's just never give me the awards. Hence why I preempted it, mate. When I won an award, I said in my speech that the way you get to do what I've done is you set your own standards and get your own validation, and you forget everyone else. I even said that in the speech. So I was basically saying fuck awards. I was already the shit. So there you go.
What do you think about Australia/Australians? As one myself, I'm always curious to see how Australia is perceived from the outside.
What do you think, Monty? Because you have a little bit of a bias against them in some ways, I feel. Just personal experience.
I actually love Australians. I have a lot. I get on very well with a lot of the Australian people in esports who aren't my former Counter-Strike team.
Okay, there you go.
Actually, most of those guys were fine. It was really only one guy.
Yeah, sure.
Who may have quit on the team in a very important moment. Who can say? But anyway, I generally really like Australian people. I've got a lot of Australian friends, obviously, like Papa Smithy, Uber from my time on the Overwatch League. I really love Australia. Like, I think Sydney is an awesome city. Huh?
Have you ever been?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I've been to Sydney. I've went on like a week-long trip in the outback. Sydney is an awesome city. I haven't been to Melbourne. I've heard that's really people say that's even better than Sydney.
Did you see any massive tarantulas?
I did not.
Did you?
I went in the winter. I went in the winter, so they weren't there.
I thought they were on like the houses and shit underneath, and all the funnel webs are under their house and shit. I'm never going there. I don't like arachnophobia, the movie. So I'm not going.
I was sleeping in the outback under the stars around a campfire, and I woke up and there was a dingo like 5 feet away from me.
I'm out instantly.
I think Australians are really fun. I like their sense of humor a lot. They're like self-deprecating and funny in a way. They don't take themselves too seriously. I like their profaneness. I like the fact that they're not. I mean, Americans are often pretty annoying these days because of, you know, the fear of crossing certain lines. And I think Australians just don't have that sensibility, which is really fun. Like there's a lot less political correctness, which I enjoy. I think Australia is cool. I would love to live in Australia, but I can't because geographically it's a fucking nightmare. You have shit internet and you are actually at the ass end of the earth. And if you work in esports, it is probably the worst place you could live. That's a first world country. It is very difficult to get anywhere from Australia. I've done that Australia to Europe flight. That is a fucking nightmare. It takes like 25 hours and 2 like 12-hour flights. I did that, man.
I am Sydney, mate, because I didn't want to do it, mate.
No, it is. So it's sad that you guys are cool and live in this awesome country and have really cool cities because nobody can actually go visit them. Maybe that's a good thing for you. I don't know. But, you know, even Los Angeles, it's like, hell, I mean, it takes like 9 hours to get to fucking Southeast Asia. It's like in the same time zone as Korea, but it's like an 11-hour flight. It really is. It really is at the ass end of nowhere. So
I actually do sort of like Australians. Like, to me, one of the weirdest things is that's where there really is, to me, almost no actual heritage anymore between the United States and Great Britain. The United States almost immediately just did become a totally different place, a totally different culture. Yeah. Australia, fucking all of them, Canada, they still do have some element of what is Britishness and what sort. There's an immediate like sense of shared like resonance when you talk to these people. So I actually generally do like them. They're pretty good. Yeah. I'm never going there though. Fuck that. I'm staying in the mothership. Don't worry about it. I don't even live there anymore, but don't worry about that.
This one's for Thorin. How do you view this new phase of Cristiano Ronaldo's career, particularly regarding his role in the Portuguese national team? There's a growing debate in Portugal. One side argues that Ronaldo has passed his prime and should either retire from the national team or start from the bench, while the other side believes that the problem lies with the coach, who isn't using the right players or tactics to complement his style of play. What's your thoughts on this?
The coach almost certainly doesn't use this tactics for his style of play because basically he doesn't have like people just deliver the ball to Ronaldo so he can just kick it in the goal, which is his biggest skill. He's still really good at doing that. Obviously the Saudi league is nonsense. Like I don't give a fuck about that, but he's still the best player in it. Like you can clearly still score. He scored for Portugal a whole bunch of times this year. He scored, if you don't know, he scored more goals for Portugal like this year than like fucking Vinicius Jr. scored for fucking Brazil or whatever, like some insane stat like that. So he definitely can be good. What happens is, unfortunately, there's only two types of people. There's people who think Ronaldo's really good and maybe love him, and then people who just hate him, so they just say he must retire all the time, constantly, which is what they also say about like Aaron Rodgers, and it goes down the list. Like the hater just you're not even allowed to play the game anymore. Like you're not second best, you're not allowed to play the game. So the problem I think they have in Portugal is they do have a really good team, but I'll tell you what, here's the obvious question: who's the other striker for Portugal who's going to bang in loads of goals? Because right now the thing he can still do is score goals. He's mega at penalties, so I think it's overrated. I think it's actually disgraceful because that's the opposite mentality everyone takes to every other legend. Every other legend, you want them to play as long as possible and hang on as long as possible and play any role whatsoever in winning like a World Cup or a Euros, even if you're on the bench, even if you're like that. So I think, personally, I would just give him delivery. If he doesn't score, once he has delivery, then bench him. Then I'm totally fine. But if you don't give him the delivery, then he can't then complain he didn't score. That's my take. And he's probably the best old player ever.
We're well over 3 hours now, so we're going to do one more question, then we're going to be done. If you were a pro LoL player, what position would you play? What would your pocket pick / best champ be if you could magically be the best at any champ? And what team would you play for, replacing the existing player of that position and inheriting their teammates?
Pocket pick.
So what position would you play?
Yeah.
What would your pocket pick / what would your pocket pick where you're like the best at it in the world be? And what team would you play for replacing the existing player?
Oh, it's a current team.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would be jungle for sure. For me, what would my pocket pick jungle champion be that I could be the best in the world at? Maybe Volibear. We'll go with that. That was always one of my favorite champions. And what team would I play for, replacing the existing player of that position and inheriting their teammates? I mean, if I wanted to win, it would just be GenG because it's like the easiest jungle role ever. And Canyon also is just kind of running it down. So I feel like if I was good enough to be a very good professional player, that would be a great pick if I wanted to win Worlds. I could, or here's a thought. I could take KT and replace that dumpster Pioshik and actually be good to BDD.
Mine's good because I've woven it into the narratives. Are you ready? I would play the role I play, support. And I would play, and my pocket pick would be Pyke, because that's what I play all the time. Let's see where I'm going with this. And I would join current day T1, because one, I'd be starting ahead of Reckless. That alone's a win. Two, when Faker does some massive move and he's about to get a penta, I come in as Pyke and steal the penta. There you go. I've got everything. I've got all the narratives. I've got them all. Got them all. There you go. Got them all.
Nail it. Okay, guys. That'll do it for this show. As a reminder, we will be back after Swiss Stage ends. So this was we did our preview show. Then after play-ins, we did that show. Then we do the halfway through Swiss show. Then we're going to do the done with Swiss before quarters show. Then we'll be back on the regular schedule. So hope you guys have enjoyed listening. Enjoy your couple days off from the World Championship while you take the break for Swiss. Power Spike will be on tomorrow. And so we will see you next week for another episode of Summoning Insight. Till then.